Maryland Orioles fans are awfully excited about the baseball they have seen this year. The Orioles are well on their way to an American League East Division championship. They've been one of the hottest teams in baseball in the second half. And yes, it certainly looks like Baltimore will be a part of October. The Orioles are 88-60 right now, and with a Toronto loss earlier today, their magic number to clinch the AL East for the first time since '97 is down to 4. Meanwhile, the Yankees are hanging on by their fingernails right now. 4.5 out, 15 to go as they try to chase down a wild card spot in the AL. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. Hi, everybody, and welcome to beautiful Camden Yards. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, and we are thrilled to welcome back to the broadcast booth tonight Curt Schilling. Great to have you back, Schill. Let's talk about these Orioles. Some news this week, not of a good kind. Chris Davis suspended for 25 games, but the Orioles have a lot going for them, including a great manager who you played for in Arizona and an underrated pitching staff.
Well, for Buck, this is going to be business as usual. Chris Davis, they'll worry about him when he comes back. But they've lost a lot of key players this year and still played through it. Pitching is a strength for this team. They have a lot of six-inning starters with a shutdown bullpen, which plays into Buck Showalter's strength. He's a matchup manager. Anybody that plays against him or with him, you can. That's one thing you can get from him. He never has the wrong matchup on the field.
And even with Davis suspended, Matt Wieters injured, Manny Machado injured, there's still a lot of power. They've hit more home runs than any team in baseball. Nelson Cruz has 39, but there's another guy on this team you think deserves a little more publicity.
Yeah, he doesn't get any. And with all the injuries, you understand, and the way Nelson Cruz is playing, you understand why Adam Jones isn't getting the publicity he deserves. But Dan, they're one of the best teams in the American League, and he is the best player on this team. He can do everything. Hit for power, hits for average, can run the bases, and a gold glove center fielder. And Dan, when they need a big hit, that's Adam Jones. That's a guy Buck wants up there.
The Orioles,
game on the line.
They're playing with a lot of confidence right now. They've taken 2 of the first 3 in this series. They're inching closer to a division title, and they'll have the guy who might be their Game 1 playoff starter, Chris Tillman, on the mound tonight. Also, Derek Jeter's last game here at Camden Yards. Buster Olney will look at his unique relationship with the baseball fans around the country. And today, the 200th anniversary of the Star Spangled Banner. That's big news here in Baltimore. They've done in this part of town over the last 20 years or so, and this being the 200th anniversary of the Star Spangled Banner, the lyrics of which were written after a battle at Fort McHenry, the Battle of Baltimore, a part of the War of 1812, which extended through to 1815. So it was September of 2014, 200 years ago today. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people here in downtown Baltimore. The Blue Angels overhead, as we saw and heard a little bit earlier today. So a very exciting weekend on a number of fronts here in Baltimore. Let's send you to the PA announcer now here at Camden Yards as we hand it over to Ryan Wagner.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please rise and that gentlemen remove your hats. 200 years ago today, Francis Scott Key witnessed the 25-hour bombardment of Fort McHenry and wrote the immortal poem that was later set to music and became the Star-Spangled Banner, the national anthem of the United States. Please join us as we welcome the Fort McHenry Guard, who represent the defenders of Baltimore on September 14, 1814. They will present the colors for this evening's game. Also, as a special tribute to the bicentennial, the Maryland Historical Society proudly displays its handmade replica Star-Spangled Banner flag, bearing 15 stars and 15 stripes over the batter's eye wall in center field. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as we welcome musician first class Maya Rodriguez, who will honor our nation with her rendition of our Star-Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Derek Jeter and the Yankees getting set to take on the Orioles here tonight after a stirring rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Down to the field now. Let's join our Buster Olney.
Derek Jeter has been cheered here in Baltimore this weekend like he's been cheered in every park this summer. He's not only been a great player, he's also appreciated for how he carries himself.
Batting second for the Yankees, the captain, Derek Jeter.
From the first days of Derek Jeter's career, the on-deck circle has been a place where he has made personal connections, chatting with fans as he windmills a bat, in Yankee Stadium, in Fenway Park, in Camden Yards, everywhere. Fans say he'll joke with them, tease them, commiserate with them. Joe Torre once said this in-game byplay never bothered him because it was just Jeter having fun. Maybe this is why fans have always responded to Jeter, because he has played baseball the way they would have wanted to play if they had the chance, playing the only position he wanted to play for his favorite team. He has dated the best-looking stars, run out every ground ball, made a lot of money, seemingly saying and doing the right thing, while creating permanent memories in the biggest games. And along the way, he has always looked like he is having the greatest time. And fans have had access to that joy.
Derek Jeter's in the on-deck circle now, getting ready for his 140th career regular season game in Camden Yards. Dan?
Buster, thank you. And his 71st and final appearance on Sunday Night Baseball over the years. A lot more on Jeter coming up tonight as we check out the Yankee lineup presented by Taco Bell, and Jeter in his familiar two-spot of the lineup with the left-handed batters Ellsbury and Gardner surrounding him. Martin Prado is the cleanup hitter, but let's be honest, this has been a dismal season offensively for the New York Yankees. Some players hurt, some players not doing what they used to do, and the Yankees on pace for their worst offensive season in 24 years. On the mound tonight for the Orioles, Schill, is the guys we mentioned could be the Game 1 starter for the Orioles in the playoffs, Chris Tillman.
Well, not just this year. You look at their stat. They're young. They're power arms, power pen. This guy is, I think he's their Game 1 starter if they do go to the postseason. My biggest issue, if there is anything with him, I'd like to see him start getting into the 7th and 8th inning a lot more than he has.
Nice night for a ball game here at Camden Yards, and a nice crowd on hand as the Orioles, and you can see they've got their stars and stripes on here tonight. Special uniforms, first and only time these will be worn in honor of the 200th anniversary of the Star Spangled Banner. Jacoby Ellsbury in the box. And we are underway with the ball one outside. Ellsbury, Jeter, Gardner. Ellsbury at 275, and how often do you see a guy who hits leadoff a lot? Now, Ellsbury's hit some 3 also, but this is not the guy who you would expect to lead the team in RBIs on the season. As this one will stay in play, and the catch is made by a former Yankee, a former a lot of things, Kelly Johnson, for the first out of the night.
Shortstop, number 2, Derek Jeter.
Jeter steps in, hitting .251. First pitch swinging, fly ball right field. And Markakis will make the catch, 2 down. And for Jeter, that actually extends a hitless streak. He's now 0 for his last 21. And barring a big turnaround by the team, it looks like the season is not going to have kind of a fairy tale ending.
Well, John and I were watching BP. That is what getting older will do for you. That's a ball right there that he used to drive to right center field, and that's now not as much. His bat speed is obviously not what it once was.
At least the one thing they can do if they continue to play like this, the New York Yankees, is figure out a way for the last homestand to, appropriately have Derek Jeter go out, and if he wants to play his last game in Yankee Stadium, if they continue to play like this, they'll be able to do that, and when they go on the road, they won't have to worry about playing him.
Yeah, they could be eliminated by that time. The last home game for the Yankees is the final Thursday of the regular season against the Orioles. Then the Yankees finish up with a 3-game weekend series at Fenway Park. And as we showed you off the top of the show, at the moment the Yankees are 4.5 out of a playoff spot, desperately trying to chase down the second wild card spot. Here's Gardner. Been a tough year for Joe Girardi, the pitching staff, the rotation specifically decimated by injuries, and the offense underperforming on so many levels. In some ways, guys, it makes you wonder how they're 5 games over 500.
Well, they didn't come into this season thinking that Brett Gardner was going to be their third hitter, Martin Prado hitting cleanup, and Mark Teixeira hitting 6th.
Well, they spent a couple $100 million to make that not happen. And to think that last year's team struggled. They went out and spent a couple $100 million, and this year's team is worse than last year's team. And a lot of that, again, for me, it's 4 of the 5 starters from their opening day rotation are gone.
Fouled back by Gardner, 3-2. The guys they brought in, well, we saw Ellsbury already. He's having a good season. Maybe not quite as good as he did last year, but he's having a good season. But Carlos Beltran, who's out with an elbow injury right now, may not play again this season. Beltran's had some injuries. He hasn't put up big numbers. And there's Brian McCann, who was such a steady offensive force in Atlanta, and he has not put up the numbers that you come to associate with a Brian McCann. Of course, Jeter's numbers not very good this year in his final season. Up and down, Mark Teixeira has not had a good offensive season. He's hitting .217 right now.
Yeah, it's a whole combination of things. Like Kurt mentioned, the 4 starters going down. But, when your starters go down, that's when as an offense you say, okay, we got to score.
for me, I think the bigger problem is when you get in this situation, you put players in uncomfortable. Brett Gardner is not supposed to be a key player. He's supposed to hit second or seventh. Brian McCann's supposed to be a great role player, support guy. They're counting on those guys to help them win games, and that's where you get in trouble.
And that's the inning. 3 out and 3 down. Tillman strikes out Gardner to the bottom of the first into Camden Yards. The Orioles coming up. Ball is presented by the new Dollar Cravings menu at Taco Bell. Live Mas. And in part by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. More of the festivities here in Baltimore, including the tall ships are here. You're looking at the United States Coast Guard Eagle, built in 1936. It's the only commissioned Coast Guard tall ship, and it serves as a training vessel for new members of the Coast Guard. It's been an eventful, fun couple of days. I know the Blue Angels caught all of our attention over the last couple of days. Let's check out the Orioles starting lineup now, brought to you by Taco Bell. Even with Matt Wieters missing most of the season and Manny Machado now out for the rest of the season, this team has still easily hit the most home runs of any team in baseball this year, led by Nelson Cruz, who leads the majors with 39 home runs on the season. On the mound tonight for the Yankees, the only guy from the opening day rotation who has made it through the season without a stint on the DL, that's Hiroki Corona.
Well, when you look at the future of this club, those 4 guys that you miss, you wonder about. This guy is probably not going to be back next year.
And he's been the only one you can count on this year.
Free agent at the end of the season, and who knows if he's back. Some people speculate maybe the Dodgers. Some people say maybe he goes back and pitches in Japan. But he has been a steady pitcher for the Yankees this year, as Nick Markakis leads it off. First pitch swinging. And this ball's carrying a bit, but twisting and turning and getting back is Gardner to make the catch, 1 down.
Yeah, this is from a start. I think from a manager's perspective, the one thing you want is the guy to take the ball every 5th day. And this guy is the one guy the last 2 years that they've been able to count on.
The other guys who are out, of course, are Tanaka, who may still come back. He's actually going to throw about 60 pitches in a simulated game tomorrow to test out that elbow. I know Kurt has some thoughts. We'll talk about Tanaka over the course of the evening as time allows. CC Sabathia out with knee surgery. Ivan Nova, elbow surgery. He's out. Michael Pineda was out, missed a lot of the season with a shoulder problem. He's now back. There's Alejandro Diaza, picked up by the Orioles from the White Sox. And in the wake of the Chris Davis suspension, there's kind of a domino effect. But this guy's been playing a lot. Steve Pearce had played a lot of the outfield, but now Pearce is going to be the first baseman with Davis suspended. And Diaza, who has hit very well since he's come to Baltimore. He's hit .351 in 9 games. Bounce it to the right side. But he figures to be pretty much a part of the everyday lineup the rest of the way for Baltimore. And you can see they're missing some key guys, but they like those other guys too.
Yeah, and the other guys are pretty good when you really think about it. But, you know, it's like when we were talking to Buck Showalter today at our managers meeting. Everything had to fall right. Zach Britton, after Tommy Hunter got hurt, Zach Britton, they didn't know if he could do what he's doing, but he's doing it, and he's doing it at a high level. You didn't know what Steve Pearce can do. I mean, that's a guy they released in May, and now he comes back, and he's one of the key components of this offense. Must be getaway day.
Everybody's swinging early in the count. Adam Jones grounds out. 5 pitches is all Hiroki Kuroda needs to take care of the Orioles. No score after an inning here in Baltimore. Take a look at the lineup coming up this week. Extra games. We've got 5 games for you the next week here on ESPN and ESPN2. All of them critical to their respective playoff races. Friday night we'll be in Kansas City. The Tigers and Royals opening up a pivotal weekend series. And then Sunday Night Baseball 1 week from tonight from Busch Stadium. All games also available on Watch ESPN. Here's Martin Prado. He's playing with a bad hamstring and has been asked to play some different positions for the Yankees, but he's a versatile guy. And again, whoever would have thought of him as a cleanup hitter, but look at the numbers that he's put up recently, and given how so many other Yankees are struggling, he's as good a bet as anybody to hit cleanup right now in this lineup.
Well, there isn't a lot of power in this lineup, so why not put your hottest hitter out there and see what can happen.
Fouled back 1-2. When you think of the Yankees, you think of the nickname the Bronx Bombers, and they have been anything but near the bottom of the American League in almost every offensive category, and specifically their 3-4 hitters are way down near the bottom in the major leagues in so many significant offensive categories. This ball's crushed. Deep left field, and did he catch it? He did not. It's a home run for Prado.
That's something when you watch batting practice today. Martin Prado is getting on top of those balls. Look how close Diaz comes to that. But he was getting on top of those high pitches. He can turn on. Tillman's not a guy that's going to throw 96 by you, so that's a pitch you can get to as a right-handed hitter.
That ball ran back a little bit over the plate. He throws a lot of fastballs. And, solo home runs they shouldn't beat you. You watch where the glove is, and generally younger pitchers, when they overthrow the ball a little bit, the ball tails back to the right. That ball kind of stays middle, and Prado does what 4 hitters do.
Here's Brian McCann, who hit a home run yesterday for the Yankees in a 3-2 win. The 19th home run on the season for McCann. 16 of them at Yankee Stadium, just 3 of them on the road. Goes the other way. Got himself a base hit. And now, as the throw sails over second base, McCann takes off for second. A little grin on his face.
Well, this is something I think Brian McCann has to, even though it's late in the season, has to start doing more of. And it's a high breaking ball by Tillman that stays out over the plate. McCann, who's always had the ability to hit the ball the other way, goes the other way. But look at this throw by Diaz. And boy, we've seen that the last week or so with outfielders overthrowing cutoff man. I don't think Diaz understood it was Brian McCann who hit it, who can't run at all. And yet he tries to make the perfect throw to second base to a guy who wasn't coming there. And he overthrows. Now he's in a situation where Teixeira can hit a grounder, which he's a dead pull hitter, get McCann to third. They might get another cheap run, or get a cheap run here with a sac fly.
So it's a base hit for McCann, an error on Diaz, allowing McCann to take second. And here's the struggling Teixeira. 3 on the right side.
Well, the challenging part here is, I don't think a lot of people understand, it's a lot harder to pitch with a runner on second than it is with a runner on first. With a runner on first, you're 1 pitch away from a double play, always, no matter what the count is. Here, I'm trying to make him hit this ball to left or pop this ball up. I do not want him, and this guy's a dead pull hitter.
He can get a pitch, a fastball away and hook it. Get McCann over to third.
Now, normally when the shift is on, you see the second baseman in this kind of a situation play way deep on the outfield grass. Is Scope in because McCann is slow, and they may take a shot at getting him at third, or may try to prevent him from going to third?
Well, you have to remember that Scope is a shortstop. Came up as a shortstop, and he has a great arm. So, if it's a one-hopper to him, he might take a look at third base and see where McCann is.
And it's 3-1 now on Teixeira. Teixeira since July the 1st, so about 2.5 months, is hitting just 189, hitting 217 on the season with 21 homers and 58 driven in. And it's over the outside corner for a strike, and the count is full.
Yeah, the challenging thing about this as a pitcher is you need to be consistent as an umpire on the corners. 2 pitches in the same spot, one's a ball, one's a strike.
And that would have been a tough one to pull. I don't care how dead a pull hitter Teixeira is.
He pulls it into right field, a base hit. And McCann, not knowing if it had gone through, slid into third base on the single by Teixeira.
When you have a shift like that, you don't know where everyone is. I mean, should be looking. Watch Brian McCann. Okay, it's a grounder to the right side. I got to get over. Slide into third. That's been about time Markakis was getting the ball.
I'm thinking the third base coach should have been helping him out there.
So Brian McCann's had a couple of adventures already on the bases, and he's hearing about it.
He wasn't going to score with Markakis' arm with no outs. They're not going to send him. But, I mean, if you're going to be playing bad, you might as well have fun. And that seemed like fun to him.
Well, here's a guy who's playing well ever since he came to the Yankees, Chris Young. Young was released by the Mets, had a dismal time with the Mets this year, and all he's done since coming over to the Yankees is tear it up. Doubles, homers, stole home, walk-off hits, you name it, he's done it.
Alex Cobb was no-hitting them this week into the 7th, 8th inning. He hits a home run, and then he hits a game winner, walk-off.
Quickly 0-2. And Tillman having a tough go of it here in the second. The home run by Prado, a base hit by McCann, a throwing error on Diaz, a base hit for Teixeira, and now a hot hitter at the plate in Young.
Well, this is another issue with the Yankees offense, Dan. As you look at the guy on third base, McCann can't run. The guy on first base, Teixeira, can't run. And you got a guy in Chris Young at home plate who, even though he's hot, he will strike out or swing through ball. You can't even put a guy in motion and try to get a ground ball to stay out of the double play and let McCann score, because you're looking at a double play.
Yeah, I meant the no-hitter that he broke. They broke up the no-hitter on a double, and then he hit the walk-off. But it was an amazing game. They were down. It was all Tampa, and all of a sudden the Yankees come back. I thought that might have given them a little jump, but it's just not. I don't think it's to be this year. They're struggling.
Runners on the corners, nobody out. 2-2 the count on Young. Out of play. Well, the game that Shill was talking about was Thursday, and Alex Cobb with a no-hitter into the 8th inning until Young finds the gap in right center for a double, and then in the 9th inning a walk-off 3-run homer. Welcome to the Bronx, Chris Young. And the Yankees pick up the win. They were swept in a doubleheader here Friday. They won yesterday. As he pops one up first base side and again back out of play. But realistically right now the Yankees 4.5 out of a playoff spot, 2 weeks to go in the season, and they have to catch 2 teams to get into the playoffs. Really 3. They've got to rid themselves of Toronto and Cleveland, and then try to catch 2 of 4 teams, Detroit, Kansas City, Oakland, Seattle, who are ahead of them. I mean, this is a tall order right now.
Well, it's almost an impossible order, to be honest with you, this late in the season. And, you know, if this was the Yankees of 4 or 5 years ago, you think, okay, they have a chance. But this is not the Yankees. This is not the Bronx Bombers. And, you know, they're going to – I don't think there's any chance.
This is when you have to jump multiple teams with so little time left in the season. This inning right here, this is why Chris Tillman does not get into the 8th and 9th inning. We're the third hitter. He's already at 32 pitches. Second inning, nobody out.
Took something off and he strikes him out.
Great pitch. Now this is his changeup. I don't know if this is a changeup or a soft split, but this is perfect pitch for a guy that throws a lot of fastballs. Ball's right in the middle of the plate. Looks good. Yeah, that's his little split. Little late drop. That's a beautiful pitch. Good arm angle, too. Throws down. Pretty.
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about. You get the strikeout from Chris Young. You get a Stephen Drew coming up struggling. You get a ground ball to second base or shortstop. You turn a double play, and the Yankees only have the 1 run.
Drew, acquired by the Yankees from the Red Sox, is hitting just 130 with New York. 13 for 100, and as you can see, it's gotten even worse lately. 2 for his last 35. This is reminiscent of the way he swung the bat in October.
How can you hit 130 and it's gotten worse? That's almost impossible, isn't it?
You know, it was said that him coming over, perhaps he was auditioning for a spot next year, be it short, be it second, and the Yankees have so many questions at literally on the infield anyways, just about every spot, and in the rotation as well. But with Jeter retiring, who will the shortstop be? A-Rod figures to be back next year. Joe Girardi talking to us about that before the game. They expect him to come in, play third base, contribute. Who will the second baseman be? Is that where they will put Prado? Will Teixeira's numbers bounce back? This one will get back in the seats. I mean, that's a lot of questions. Not even talking about the pitching staff. That's a lot of questions for a team that spends $200 million a year on payroll.
Yeah, and they might have to spend a lot more because it ain't going to get no better. And that's the thing. Chase Headley, do you re-sign him? Do you make him the first baseman, put A-Rod at third, or let A-Rod just DH, and that way you can mix and match him and Teixeira, put Headley at first, A-Rod at third, let Teixeira DH. But either way, it ain't going to be good.
Yeah, you got to figure Beltran's going to need some DH at bats too. So
I was under the impression that Alex would never step on the field again. I didn't think he'd ever put the uniform on, the Yankee uniform on again. But they have so many holes and questions. That might be one that they don't. Hey, we don't have to worry about. We'll just put Alex at third. Let's solve these other problems because there's going to be. They could spend $500 or $600 million if they stay with their the MO from last winter going out because they need 5 or 6 players.
And a little pop-up back of short for Hardy to make the catch, 2 down. It's a name you've hardly heard all season. Alex Rodriguez, whose suspension is up at the end of the year. He is not working out at the Yankees facility in Tampa. He is not working out with the Yankees. He is apparently working out on his own. And really nobody has any idea what to expect from Rodriguez when he comes back next year. He is signed for 3 more years, big money. I don't think anybody ever expects him to be the player that he once was. But if he can be half of that, he might be better than some of the guys, some of the production they've gotten this year at various spots.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, even though his skills might be diminished in basically sitting out 2 full seasons, they're going to be. I don't think anyone comes back from 2 years off, playing no baseball and expect to be better. But the thing is, he's still Alex Rodriguez, and you're still going to be some pitchers who are going to have that respect for him and say, oh, here he comes. And that could help a little bit, but not a whole lot. After a while, they're going to figure it out.
I'll tell you what, though, Corky, I don't know who the real Alex Rodriguez is. I don't know if he's really that good of a player because, for me, when he was good, he was cheating.
This is Antoine Richardson, who takes a curveball for a strike. Let's go down to Buster.
And, guys, what's going to be interesting is the same questions about Alex Rodriguez were the same ones about Derek Jeter coming into this year after basically missing in 2013. And they don't know how effective he can be, but Hal Steinbrenner, their owner, has absolutely signaled he's going to have Alex Rodriguez in spring training.
2 outs, 2 strikes on Richardson, a 30-year-old rookie. Guy with a lot of speed, but little trouble hitting the Tillman curveball. They get 1 on the home run by Prado, but Tillman minimizes the damage as they strand a couple. 1-0 Yankees going to the bottom of the second with the Major League's leading home run hitter set to lead off. As we go to the bottom of the second here at Camden Yards, Nelson Cruz will lead it off for Baltimore. After the PED suspension last year, nobody was really sure what kind of a contract he would get, what kind of production could be expected. Signed a 1-year, $8 million deal and has hit 39 home runs this year to lead the majors. I think one of the things a lot of people would say, maybe with some justification, is, well, yeah, but this is a really good hitter's park, so I bet you he's done a lot of his damage here. He's actually done most of his damage, and by a pretty wide margin, as you can see, on the road. And with the absence of Wieters, Machado, and now Davis, how important has this guy been to the Orioles this year?
Well, it's a huge signing for the Baltimore Orioles, and like you said, Dave, you don't know what you're going to get. You know, guy comes off a PED. Is the power going to be there? Is he going to be the same player? Can he stay healthy? And he's done all three of those things remarkably well this year.
Got a piece of that pitch and got a piece of home plate umpire Ed Hickox as well on the foul ball. Ooh. Staggered him a little bit right off the mask, and it wobbled him a little bit. Brian McCann there to help him stay up on his feet just in case. McCann with a little professional courtesy as he goes to the mound to talk to Kuroda, gives Hickox a little extra time to recover. So the high fastball, Schill, does that set him up for the two-strike splitter?
Well, I think he was trying to go away right there. He overthrew that pitch. He was trying to set him up. I think he wants to get him out in or split down. He was trying to go away there to set those pitches up.
And there's the bread and butter pitch right there for Kuroda.
Yeah.
A pitch he throws a lot, a pitch that a lot of people say causes a lot of elbow issues.
I think the opposite.
You don't think it causes
nope.
elbow issues?
It's the easiest pitch for me to teach. I think it's one of the easiest pitches on your arm if you hold it right.
You're quite familiar with that pitch. Yeah. You threw that pitch every now and again.
Yeah.
2-2. The last 3 years, Kuroda has thrown more and more splitters.
Huh. Well, I mean, it's an easy pitch to throw too, and it complements guys that throw fastballs, command fastballs to the corners.
And with the shift on, that's Drew making the play to get Cruz one down. Well, it's been a great year for the Orioles, who were not a team that a lot of people figured to be a contender this year, but they're 88-60 on their way to winning the division title. Nelson Cruz, as we mentioned, a big part of that. The defense in recent years has been really one of the strong points of this team. And how about the Oriole pitching staff? Maybe they don't have a Felix Hernandez or Clayton Kershaw, but in Chris Tillman and Wei-Yin Chen, Bud Norris has had a strong season. They're so excited about Kevin Gausman, Miguel Gonzalez pitching very well in the second half. 5 reliable starters. And then a bullpen that is as deep with as many different types of pitchers. Tommy Hunter comes in throwing 98. They pick up Andrew Miller, Darren O'Day, submariner, Zach Britton, left-handed closer. I mean, they got some weapons out there.
Well, and this manager and this rotation are ideal fits, because you've got a guy who does matchups as well as anybody in the game. The challenge, I think, late in the season is you're asking your bullpen to get 9 outs every night. You can't do that. You got to have a starter that gives your bullpen a rest.
So you think they're going to need 7-8 innings, a fair number of occasions in October from their starters to be successful?
If they were playing for any other manager, I'd say yes. But Buck Showalter pays attention to detail like nobody I've ever seen. If you get up in the bullpen and you throw and warm up, he counts that as having thrown. He keeps his arms as fresh as he can, especially here in September.
You played for him in Arizona.
I did, very briefly, and it was a very enjoyable experience. Never seen a guy as prepared as he was to manage.
And now that preparedness, but he also comes with, he's a player's manager,
which is unheard of 10 years ago.
Yeah. But I think when we worked with him at ESPN, he understood that. He understood that he had to change. He understood that he had to be a little more player friendly, and
So you lose it. You're responsible for Buck Showalter 2.0?
No, I'll tell you this. When he first came there, I thought, there's no way I'll work with that man. I cannot work with someone who's going to, tell me this is how you're going to do this, this is how you're going to do that, and everything. I couldn't do it.
Because the reputation was micromanaging.
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah. And I played golf with him one day, so I got to spend about 4.5 hours with him in a golf cart, just he and I. And it changed my opinion forever about this guy because he's like us. He's a little bit bent out of shape.
I was wondering what the next words were going to be.
I was trying to come up with something, but that's as clever as I could get.
When I got traded over to Arizona, there was a lot of baggage around him.
This one's going to get past Prado down the line into the corner, and J.J. Hardy's on his way to second base.
As I was saying, he had a lot of baggage, but when I went to Arizona, I realized a lot of it was not true. There was a lot of things that had followed him around, wearing your uniform a certain way, wearing your socks a certain way. He said, listen, when I had an expansion team the first year, yes, I had rules because none of these guys were big leaguers. I had to teach them how to dress. They didn't know how. But I eased up as I went. No one really realized it, and there were players that still talk about it. And his theory behind the expansion draft is one of the most fascinating stories I've ever heard. And it just shows how smart he is. He said, listen, we're not drafting guys in the expansion draft to win a pennant. We're drafting guys that other people want to trade their prospects for. And I thought that was just a brilliant approach.
And the one constant everywhere he's been, his teams have gotten better from year one to year two, and sometimes significantly, like 25, 30 wins better.
He left New York. They won a World Series. He left Arizona. We won a World Series. I mean, he's put together some amazingly good teams, and this is kind of, I think, a culmination of his career here, which it's fun to watch.
Runner at second, 2 down, 1-0 Yankees, bottom of the second, and the batter is Kelly Johnson. At third base for the Orioles tonight. Johnson this year alone has been an Oriole and a Yankee and a member of the Red Sox. And he's also been a Ray and a Blue Jay. He's played for all 5 teams in the American League East, all of it in the last 3 years. And right now, again, with the Chris Davis suspension, Davis had been playing some third as well with Machado out. Johnson potentially figures into that equation as the Orioles continue their march to what looks like a spot in the postseason. He could get a lot of playing time at third base in October.
Yeah, he sure can. And the thing about Kelly Johnson is, there's a reason why he's been with a couple teams this year. He hasn't been exactly productive, but there is power in the bat, Dan. And when you have power in the bat, you can get away. When you have so many other really good offensive players on your team, you can get away with it. But in New York, it got exposed because no one else was doing anything.
Barreto takes something off, and the count is 1-2 on Johnson. By the way, that was scored a double for Hardy, the ball that eluded Prado when it went down into the left field corner. A run in the top of the inning on a home run by Prado. Now the Orioles trying to answer in the bottom half. They won't do it as Kuroda strikes him out. End of the inning, still 1-0 Yankees. Another Jeter at bat when we come back in the top of the third here in Baltimore. All right, guys, thank you. So Detroit now opens up a 1.5 lead on the Royals. Remember, they play in Kansas City next weekend. We'll have the Friday night game for you right here on ESPN. The Indians, a tough weekend against the Tigers, and their realistic chances of making the playoffs may have gone by the wayside this weekend. They were swept by Detroit. The Tigers have responded recently, guys. All of a sudden have won 6 out of 7.
Well, you're wondering, when we all touted them early in the season as the greatest team we've ever seen play ever in the history of the world.
There's Jacoby Ellsbury, top of the order for the Yankees in the third, up 1-0.
And they have a chance to be a tough out in the playoffs.
Sure.
With that pitching staff. If Verlander gets right, they could, with Scherzer and David Price.
I watching him throw today. He's low 90s pretty consistently right now, which is obviously a very different Justin Verlander. I think that's who he is this year.
Ellsbury popped up into foul territory, his first time up tonight.
Were you usually consistent with your velocity from April into September and October? Because he's had games where he's 95, 96.
Well, I got my velocity went up from April to August, and usually when I was healthy, it stayed wherever it was in August. It stayed through September. In the postseason, you got a couple extra miles an hour from the adrenaline.
Ellsbury fights off the pitch away from Tillman. The count remains a ball and 2 strikes as he leads off the third. Derek Jeter waiting on deck. Tillman has not allowed more than 3 earned runs in any one of his last 18 starts. So as Schill said, he's not getting as deep into games as they would like. But he's certainly keeping them in the games. He has lowered his ERA, not getting as many wins maybe as he would like, because some have gotten away late in games because the bullpen has given up some leads.
Well, and that's what happens when you go 6 innings. When you leave 9 outs for the bullpen and it's a 3-2 game, when you can't be mad about not getting a win. There's still a third of the game left. But this second inning tonight is one of the reasons why he doesn't get into the 8th and 9th.
Yeah, 47 pitches already, looking for his first out in the third. In foul territory, it will be Hundley, the catcher, to make the catch for the first out. Here comes Jeter, who way back in '95 played for Buck Showalter when Buck was the manager of the Yankees. Buster Olney sat down to Buck today to ask him about Jeter.
His substance is so much his style. Like, what is his signature play? I guess jumping up in the hole and throwing across the diamond. His signature play is hitting behind the runner. His signature play is getting a bunt down. His signature play is relaying the ball. And the ability to play that long in any city, especially New York, and never embarrass the organization, his family, his teammates, on and off the field. You know how hard that is?
I think that's a pretty about as high a compliment as you can get when your substance is your style.
Well, he was this. You're talking about one of the best players that ever played the game, and he comes to the big leagues and the Yankees start winning World Series. Is no mistake. Pettit, Rivera, and all them. I faced him, I think, almost 90 times with interleague and everything. Probably one of the funnest guys to face. But 2001, Game 7 of the World Series, I stepped onto the rubber before the first pitch. He stepped into the box, and I remember I was smiling. I was excited. It's like, there's a billion people watching this game. It's going to be fun. He steps in the box. He looks at me. I smile. We both wink at each other, nod our heads, and then we went to playing.
Just a little disconcerting that you're winking at another player.
We both knew what we were getting ready to do.
Yeah.
Well, you're getting ready to play in a game that would be remembered forever.
Mm-hmm. And it was.
Thankfully.
Yeah. You've got better memories than he does, although, he got 5. So.
Right. Well, that's where he became Mr. November. Yep. With clock struck midnight, November 1st, and he hit a game winner.
He hits this one pretty well. Backpedaling Markakis, shy of the track, 2 down. And you're saying if this is 5-6 years ago, instead of 2 fly balls, he might have a double and a homer.
Exactly. And that, again, he's a lot of thousands of at-bats into a career. It's late in the season. His bat's dragging a little bit. That's his ball. That's his pitch. Look at that. That ball's middle. That's a ball he crushes. He knows it.
And that's the thing. The swing hasn't changed over the years. It's just the age of the swing has changed over the years, and it's not the same bat speed.
And I think that's why he's retiring. I think he recognizes that that's who he is now, and he doesn't want to be that guy.
2 down in the inning. Here's Brett Gardner. Gardner struck out his first time up. Jeter now 0 for 2 tonight.
I would say this, Dan. That to me, Jeter's one of those guys where you can judge the Hall of Fame voters. If you don't vote for Derek Jeter to go to the Hall of Fame, you should lose your ability to vote on the ballot.
Well, nobody's ever gotten 100%
and that's
in the first year.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
Babe Ruth didn't get 100%.
Diaz. Inning over. 3 up and 3 down go the Yankees here in the top of the 3rd. Camden Yards in Baltimore. Dan Shulman, John Kruk, Kurt Schilling, Buster Olney, and Orioles catcher Matt Wieters kind enough to join us for the dugout. Matt, thanks for joining us tonight.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Got to be obviously a bittersweet year for you. I mean, injured most of the season, but I'm sure enjoying the ride that your teammates are on right now.
Yeah, winning is winning. Definitely would love to be out there, but you know, watching these guys play as well as they're playing, you know, it's still feel like I'm part of the team and would love to be behind the plate, but they're doing just fine without me right now.
So tell us, for people who may not be intimately familiar with the Orioles, they know Matt Wieters is out, and they know Manny Machado is out, and now they know Chris Davis is suspended. Give us some reasons why the Orioles have had as good a season as they've had.
Because we like all our guys, and you know, it's that way from, you know, really 5-6 years ago. It started with it. You know, we're not going to be, you know, just 1, 2, 3, 4 players. It's got to be a sum of all parts, especially to be able to compete in this division and be able to get where we want to go. It's got to be, you know, all 25 guys that are on the roster, and even, you know, down in the minor leagues and everybody that's coming up through.
Hey, Matt, this is Kurt.
Hey, Kurt.
How you doing?
Good.
Listen, I know from talking to Buck that you're very much into game calling. I'm wondering, since you're here, how much influence you've had on the guys that are catching every day now, number one, and number two, pitchers meetings. Are you still heavily involved in helping the pitchers get ready?
Mainly, I want to be accessible, and I want to be there if anybody, does have a question or anything they want to run by, I just kind of want to be here to where if they need help, I can do my best. But Nick and Caleb have been doing a great job, and they really put the time and effort into preparing a game plan. And like I said, I wanted to be here in case they need it, but they've both done a great job on their own so far.
Nick, you guys pick up Nelson Cruz in the offseason, and with all the injuries you've had, it's been a much needed offensive help for you. But Adam Jones is easily your best player, isn't he?
Well, we got quite a few guys. And that's what we got to like it. I mean, you can look at everybody does something different. Adam is a guy who, really, I'd say probably 5 years ago, just turned into a guy who's going to go out there and play every day, give his effort out there, and as well as his amazing talent. Anytime you can get a guy with his talent that wants to go out there and play hard every day, you're going to have a heck of a ball player.
Buck Showalter was telling us before the game, he says Adam's not only a great ball player, but he's one of the funnier guys around, too. Does some good impersonations. He said Caleb Joseph keeps guys loose as well. It seems like, and maybe this comes with winning, but it seems like it's a group that likes to have fun. A little nubber out in front of the plate, and McCann will make the play 2 down. Is it as loose a bunch as it looks like from the outside?
It is. You've got to have fun. You'll drive yourself crazy if you're playing 162 games and not liking the guys in your clubhouse. And we love everybody in this clubhouse. And we consider each other family, and we're going to have times where we get on each other's nerves, and we're going to have times where we have a lot of fun. So it's you got to consider yourself a family for all season long.
Tell us about some of the arms down in the bullpen, specifically maybe that of Zach Britton and the kind of year that he's had.
Yeah, Zach's always had a phenomenal sinker, and he really found his niche when he went down in the bullpen and kind of really just focused on that in spring training, of being able to locate that. And you knew, even when as a starter, you knew how explosive of a pitch it is, and he's been able to fill in for us there at closer. And last year we had Jim who had done a great job for us, and this year it's kind of that whole bullpen does a great job of bridging to Zach right now, and he took over, and it's been lights out ever since.
How's your elbow? You going to be good to go 2015?
That's the plan. So it's a long rehab, and it's a lot of day-to-day process, but we're going to grind it out until we're ready to go.
We appreciate the time. Best of luck for a full recovery, and good luck to the Orioles the rest of the way.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Matt Wieters, terrific catcher. I mean, a guy who means so much to the team offensively, but even more, you talked about Showalter about what he means to the pitching staff, and he just raves about it.
Yeah, he does rave about him, but I tell you, when Buck was being courted by the Orioles to become their manager, he thought that, he never liked a big catcher, tall catcher like Wieters is, but a week into it, he called me and said, I fell in love with the guy. He's my favorite player.
Markakis grounds out. The Orioles go in order. We're at the end of 3 in Baltimore with the Yankees up 1-0. Camden Yards, the Yankees lead the Orioles 1-0. A beautiful look at still one of the game's prettiest ballparks, opened back in 1992. That shot came to you from atop the warehouse, out beyond the right field fence. One of the distinct features in this ballpark. 1-0, the Yankees lead on a home run by the guy in the batter's box right now, Martin Prado. Hit it maybe 4 to 6 inches over the outstretched glove of Alejandro Diaz, the Baltimore left fielder. And it might not have been a home run in any other ballpark in baseball. I suppose maybe Philly a shot, maybe Cincinnati a shot, but 364 to left center. That's
in the
that's
paper
very
tomorrow.
deep.
In the paper tomorrow, it's going to look like a 400 footer. I'll tell you what, there's a phenomenon that I first saw with Dustin Pedroia. There are some guys that are baseball players, and they'll do what they need to do where you put them. You look at Dustin Pedroia's numbers when he hit cleanup. He had cleanup hitter numbers. Yep. When he hit in the 2-hole, he did that.
Ooh. And he's gone.
Great curveball. So for you fans and young pitchers out there that are wondering what a knuckle curve is, that's a knuckle curve. A knuckle curve is when you put your inside finger on the ball and you watch. You don't actually spin the ball with the knuckle, but you get what you're doing is you're getting your finger out of the way. And when I pitched, I held my curveball. I had my finger way above the ball because I was trying to take my hand, this finger out of the equation because it puts drag on the ball. You throw a curveball with this finger right here, so most guys might be seeing it through it like this. And they feel comfortable here. Other guys take it off the ball. The problem is, really good hitters, they can see this.
Really?
They see. Oh yeah. Guys would talk about when you come over the top like he does. You can see. They can see the finger. They know it's going to be a curveball, or they can see the knuckle. They know it's going to be a curveball. For guys that throw over the top, it's a way to get that 12-6 break. Yeah, and I noticed tonight something. He didn't throw his first curveball till the 18th pitch of the game. He was throwing a lot of fastballs, but he had a feel for his curveball right from the first one he threw. He threw back-to-back ones where he gave up the double to left, and the second one's a bad one, but most of them have been good, which means you're feeling the ball like you're throwing the ball out in front of you and finishing.
And another strikeout for Tillman. That's 5 strikeouts through 3 2/3. He's not a huge strikeout guy, but when you watch him pitch, it looks like the strikeout number should be bigger.
Yeah, great movement. And anytime you have a guy that throws directly over the top like that, there's a little jump at the end of his fastball that gets on you a little quicker than 91, 92 should get on you. But when you watch Tillman pitch, they don't have great swings at his fastball that often when it's elevated. And then when he throws that slider, cutter, whatever, and that knuckle curve like Kurt was showing you, all 3 of those pitches are, and the changeup, but all 4 of those pitches coming out of the same arm slot, that's what makes that jump on his fastball that much better.
It's sharply, but right to Pearce at first, and it's a 3-up, 3-down inning for Tillman here in the top of the 4th. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by the makers of 1A Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. This is from last night, part of the 200th anniversary celebration of the Star Spangled Banner. This is all over the Inner Harbor, and I mean, it was something else. You can see how extensive the fireworks show. They were launched from 6 different barges that stretch across 3 miles from the Inner Harbor to Fort McHenry.
If I'd have known how to use the camera on my phone, Dan, I'd have taken a picture of that out my window at the hotel.
You know, your phone does a lot of amazing things that you really should learn.
Well, the other day I was driving in West Virginia, had an albino deer in my mom's driveway that ran up onto her carport by her front door or by her side door, and I'm trying to get the phone. I couldn't do it. I wanted to take a picture of it. It was beautiful.
Well, Shill and I were entertained at dinner just watching you try to input somebody's phone number.
That's the most expensive text message device on the planet.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
You do struggle a little bit here and there.
Yeah, that was
okay.
awful.
2-3-4 for the Orioles. Diaz, Jones, and Cruz here in the bottom of the 4th. The Yankees up 1-0. Diaz grounded out his first time up. As it stands right now, in all likelihood, this is assuming the Orioles don't collapse and they go on to win the American League East, in all likelihood they will face the champion of the American League Central in the division series, so most likely Detroit or Kansas City. The Angels, although they lost today, still by a fairly comfortable margin have the best record in the American League, in all of baseball in fact, but in the American League, so they would take on the winner of the wild card game. And the Orioles would take on the winner of the American League Central. Now, a lot of this obviously is subject to change. In the wild card race today, Oakland won. They beat Seattle again. And everybody else chasing them. Kansas City lost, Seattle lost, Toronto lost, Cleveland lost. So Oakland's now got a bit more room with the Royals still in the 2nd spot, a game ahead of the Mariners. Oakland righted the ship a little bit this weekend, but they really did it a lot more with really good pitching. The offense is still not clicking.
Yeah, it's still a struggle. And, you know, I understand the want and the need to get a big-time #1 big-game pitcher like John Lester has been throughout his career, but
he won today.
And he won today. Pitched a great game, but yeah, you know, when you lose your 4th hitter, the whole lineup changes.
Sam Fuld hit a home run for the A's today,
and that's what I'm talking about. The whole lineup changes. When Sam Fuld has to hit home runs for you to win.
But I don't think anybody expected them to tank this bad.
No.
You knew they might score fewer runs just by nature because the guy's out of the lineup. But I think that he expected the pitching to compensate for that. And John Lester has thrown that well since he went there, but their offense has just been stagnant. Unbelievable.
And a swing and a miss by Diaz. Well, let's find out. Let's get an update from one of the big games in the National League today. Back to Carl.
Hi, Dan. After losing the first game of the series, 17 runs Saturday, and Matt Kemp helps out on Sunday.
Well, Matt Kemp with his 20th home run on the season. Clayton Kershaw on the mound and Matt Kemp hitting home runs. Great combination.
Yep. Their lead in the West is 3. Back to you guys.
And here's how good Kershaw has been. He gave up 2 earned runs in 8 innings today, and his ERA went up from 167 to 170.
He might not start game 1.
Nice.
19-3. All right, I want to ask a question, but I'm directing this to Kurt because I know your answer, and you know my question. Should Clayton Kershaw get serious consideration for National League MVP?
No.
Wow. It's the first time you guys have agreed on anything since I met either one of you.
Nope. Pitchers have their award. Cy Young is. Listen, I've said this. I believe he's the modern day Koufax, and I think I'm trying to make that as a compliment to both. I think Mike Trout is on his way to becoming a modern day Mantle, which I think it's great for the game.
Yep.
He's doing things that nobody's ever done, and that when you're talking about a game that's over a century old, when people are starting to do things that have never been done, that's good or bad. It's amazing.
Won't this be leading the majors in ERA for the 4th consecutive season?
But I don't even care about that. It's under 2. That's where I get this. It's mind-boggling. Right. Yeah. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. You almost forget that he missed the first 5 weeks of the season after we talked about it last week.
I know. I watched him pitch a few weeks ago. Milwaukee, I think, was the last time he's lost a game, right? Milwaukee beat him 3-2, and it looked like Milwaukee pounded him.
Yeah, and it's going to end up. He's going to end the season with less than 200 innings, which is, obviously because he missed that month. But I know that's something that he doesn't like.
He could easily have 24 wins if he didn't miss those 5 weeks.
Although missing the time might make him stronger in October.
Yeah.
Right? So. Two and 2 on Adam Jones. And a broken back ground ball to third. Jones is retired, but let's go down to Buster. Buster, what happened on the previous pitch?
Well, actually, I was going to chime in on the MVP conversation. Shill, I know you said that, hey, pitchers, they have their own award. But if you look at the history of the award, pitchers have won it before. There's nothing in the rules against the pitcher winning. In fact, one of the guys that won the MVP, who was a pitcher, was a guy you mentioned, Sandy Koufax, finished first in 1963, finished second in 1965 and 66. I would vote for Kershaw.
I think he's going to get a lot of consideration.
Well, 127. There's 127 games. If you start 35 games, there's 127 games left that you don't impact on the field.
I think it was Jason Stark who had an interesting column talking about the number of plate appearances, say, Giancarlo Stanton had, and the number of batters Clayton Kershaw has faced. Does that doesn't change
still?
Giancarlo Stanton's not facing a position player as a pitcher. Kershaw's facing a pitcher every 2 or 3 innings. Well, with the way he pitches, every 3 innings.
Popped up in foul territory. Teixeira wants it and has it to win the inning. The Orioles go in order, and Adam Jones inadvertently damaged some pretty expensive equipment. The mid-home RoboCam is out of commission. Wow. Can we send him a bill? Does he get a bill for that?
Those cameras are expensive.
It's 1-0 going to the top of the 5th. Between innings, our Buster Olney with Orioles manager Buck Showalter.
Buck, can you define the challenge you're facing at Corota tonight and how he's throwing?
Well, it's so easy to sit up and just say lay off the split, but it appears as a strike fastball until about 3 feet in front of the plate. I wish everybody could hit off of it. So, most of the time it's a ball, but it's if you're in hitter mode, you want to hit. But he's been tough on us. We've done a little better on him in the past, but it looks like he's locked in pretty good tonight.
What kind of adjustment did Chris Tillman make in the middle of that second inning?
Well, that's just some graduation on his part. In years past, he got a man on second, nobody out after a home run. He got ambushed on a high fastball, but he settled in, reached back, and made some really good pitches and kept us engaged in the game. And that's some of the things that guys like him have been able to grasp is, kind of minimize the damage. He's been a good one.
Buck, thanks.
And once again, Adam Jones. Let me tell you, I don't think I've ever grounded out and had the wherewithal to try to be funny after I grounded out the batter before.
And he was dancing behind Buck during the interview.
Yeah.
It's
beautiful.
You can do some things with an 11-game lead in the division you can't do otherwise.
Look at him.
Yeah.
I guess him and Wayne Kirby, the outfield coach, they mess with each other the whole game. Yeah, look at that. I mean, he just grounded out 2 batters prior. Now watch him. There he comes. Look at him.
So, Kurt, you're thinking old Buck wouldn't have approved of that?
Oh no.
High fly ball to left center. And it's Jones.
You absolutely have to have players like that in this game on good teams. It's such a long season, and this like tonight's an 8 o'clock game. This is a tough travel night, and guys like that make it fun to get on the bus.
Wayne Kirby has signals to try to get the outfielder to move accordingly to the hitter, to the count, and he sends signals. And the other night I was watching a game and Adam Jones was not playing the second game of their split doubleheader, and Adam Jones was actually behind Wayne Kirby, giving all the signs to, I believe it was Quentin Berry out in right field.
And Drew is aboard.
Well, you're hitting 130, like you mentioned, Dan, and less than that after his first at bat. But this is what you do. You see the shift on, and there's nothing it can do. Once it gets past Tillman, just pick it up. If you're J.J. Hardy, hand it back to the pitcher and say, okay, let's try to turn a double play here.
I was wondering why he didn't do that the first at bat.
Yeah,
he runs too well for that shift.
That's what I mean. If it's a big power hitter like Teixeira, McCann, guys like that, you understand it. But like the shift against Stephen Drew, who, like Kurt said, can run, you're asking him to just get a hit whenever he feels like it.
Back to Adam Jones for a second. A terrific player, and we talked about this a little this morning at our meeting. Part of a 5-for-1 trade where Baltimore some years ago sent Eric Bedard to Seattle to try to give them, or what the Mariners were hoping was to get an ace for their rotation. And the Orioles got 5 players back, all of them young players, one of them Adam Jones, and one of them a minor league pitcher named Chris Tillman, who's here on the mound tonight. I mean, talk about your return on your investment.
Well, but that's, you win championships with player development. Player development happens when you have good player evaluation, talent, and great scouts. And somebody obviously saw this kid in the minor leagues and noted, hey, listen, if we make a deal with these guys, this is a kid you want to get thrown in.
That's all you heard about when he was in the minor leagues in the Seattle. The next coming, big-time center fielder. He's going to be here forever, and, we're going to be able to build around him. And then they trade him for, like you said, with Chris Tillman and a few others for Eric Bedard. And he has become a cornerstone player, just doesn't happen to be for Seattle.
That's why GMs change jobs.
To the count on Richardson. Runner at first, one out. Yankees up 1-0 in the 5th.
Look how shallow the outfield's playing, and that's, you watch Richardson take batting practice. There's not a lot of pop in that bat.
Got some wheels, though. At AAA this year, stole 26 out of 27 bases.
Look how shallow. I mean, Adam Jones is in and Diaz is in.
To your point, Dan, this guy will not give up a stolen base. He's given up 2. He's phenomenal from the stretch, which is, it's one of the things, fielding your position and holding runners.
Tillman got him with a curveball to strike him out his first time up.
And that stat right there, the thing that people need to understand is speed is a weapon. Speed is a tool. Speed is an offensive thing that teams use. He eliminates that from players and from teams' offenses before the game starts.
Ground ball to third. Got to hurry, and they just do get Richardson at first. 2 down as Drew takes second. Tony Pena telling Joe Girardi they did get him. No need to consider an appeal. So back to the top of the order with 2 down for Jacoby Ellsbury as you get another look.
And this is a play Kelly Johnson. I don't think he. I think he underestimated the speed of Richardson because he wasn't in a big hurry to get that throw over to first base. But yeah, he got him by that half step, and like Greg Nettles telling me, it doesn't matter if you get him by 4 step or a half a step, as long as it's recorded and out, we're good.
Ellsbury's 0 for 2. And a ground ball to second. That ends the inning. To the bottom of the 5th here in Baltimore, the Orioles coming up down 1-0. Presented by Taco Bell. Bottom of the 5th here at Camden Yards. Hiroki Kuroda's given up just 1 hit through 4. And the Yankees lead the Orioles 1-0. Steve Pearce is going to lead it off for Baltimore against Kuroda. And Pearce has become a force for the Orioles in just over 300 at-bats this year. He's got 24 doubles, 17 home runs. If he had enough plate appearances to qualify, he would be 6th in the American League in OPS, on base plus slugging, ahead of such hitters including Miguel Cabrera, David Ortiz, And even Nelson Cruz, that's the kind of year Pearce has had, and what makes it all the more amazing is he was released by the Orioles in May. Now they said to him, we just got to make a move, we got to pick up a pitcher, we're going to bring you back, give us a few days, trust us. He was claimed on waivers by the Blue Jays, did not want to go to Toronto, took the Orioles at their word, came back a few days later, started getting playing time because of injuries, and he's turned into an incredibly important player, again, even that much more important with Chris Davis suspended.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's been a savior for this Orioles this season, and they've had great years by other players, and we've mentioned, those guys, but this is an unexpected big return, and, Kurt and I could speak to this in 1993 when we were struggling at the shortstop position. We got a guy, Kevin Stocker. No one had any idea who he was. He comes up and he hits 320-something for us for the second half of the season, or since June, I guess. Hits over 320 and solidified our defense at shortstop and help us win a pennant.
And he strikes out Pearce, fourth strikeout of the night for Kuroda. We asked Buck before the game about, Davis is out. What's Pearce like at first base? And he said, well, first thing you got to know is he's an outfielder. But in the spring, because Davis didn't go on road games, Pearce played every road game in the spring at first. They didn't have any other first baseman in camp. And he played the second half of all the home games in spring training because Davis came out early. So he got 3/4 of the action at first base in the spring and has kind of made himself into a serviceable first baseman for the Orioles.
Yeah, and like Buck said, he's the kind of guy, too, who's very aggressive first baseman who's not afraid to go away from the line, away from first base, play in the hole, trying to take singles away from right-hand hitters who are more pull happy, and that's a big weapon that to have a first baseman with range.
1-1 the count on J.J. Hardy, the shortstop. He doubled down the left field line his first time up. That's the only hit, and in fact the only base runner for the Orioles tonight.
Yep.
There's a splitter in the dirt, 2-1 on Hardy. For Kuroda, his 30th start of the season, comes in 10-9 with a 3.91 ERA. Some of the best control numbers in all of baseball. He walks fewer than 2 batters per 9 innings.
Here's the thing, though, Dan. If you watch that last at bat, the Pearce at bat, he struck him out and threw him 4 balls. That's what the split does for you. You can throw. He's at 41 strikes and 15 balls tonight. And I would tell you, the 41 strikes, maybe 20 of them have actually been in the strike zone.
Broken bat ball on the infield. It's going to be trouble. How about that? Hardy's 2 for 2.
Well, watch his ball when it hits the ground. If we show it, this is how. When you're sitting on a split and he throws a 2-seamer in on your knuckles, this is what happens to a ball, Dan, when it basically hits your top finger. Watch his thing. Watch his pitch. He throws that 2-seamer running in. It hits Hardy just above his right hand. Now watch his thing hit. Bloop. One hop and almost stopped.
Real nice pitching wedge right there.
Yeah, that's like a 60-degree. Phil Mickelson would have been proud of that one.
Giggling about it on both sides of the field.
I mean, you hit one that bad, you shouldn't get a hit. That's when things are going good.
No arm in right now.
Kelly Johnson, the batter, struck out in the second inning.
A researcher said that might have been a home run in Williamsport, but a couple years ago they moved the fences back from 200 to 220, so pretty sure that's staying in the yard.
Prado even with a bag well off the line at third. Middle infield is a double play depth, playing Johnson to pull slightly. Teixeira holding on the runner. And a fly ball well hit to center field. But room for Ellsbury to make the catch. 2 down as for the most part, Hiroki Kuroda continues to sail through the line.
Well, he's got a good fastball command. He's got a real good split tonight. And this is why you could ask Krucky about this. I throw 2 pitches on the same plane, and one of them drops out of the strike. Again, he's probably thrown 25 splits tonight, maybe, and 25 balls. But 20 of them are strikes. And the thing is, same arm angle, same plane. As soon as but 10 feet away from the plate, it goes down, and it's such an effective pitch, such an unbelievably easy pitch to teach young pitchers that if your hand size is big enough, it's a must.
The thing about that makes a split also effective as a hitter, when you know with 2 strikes you have to be aggressive, but that's the thing. Kuroda's getting ahead. He just got ahead right here on with a breaking ball, and now he's going to try to go to that split.
And another broken bat, base hit, just inside the line. A single for Hundley. Hardy around the third. Man, Kuroda's pitching in some tough luck this inning.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dan, this is where getting the leadoff hitter out, you watch how this inning plays out, but when you get the leadoff hitter out, it changes everything about the inning. Now, he makes the pitch he wants to make.
It's like a slider.
Well,
slider cutter down.
That's what they tell young pitchers when you get to the big leagues. Good pitches get hit here. And my pitching coach, my rookie year, said, listen, a line drive out is a great pitch. A broken bat single is a bad pitch. It's all about results. But he's got good stuff tonight. The challenge now is they need a big hit. I guarantee you he's going to see, I would say, a bunch of splits this at bat.
Jonathan Scope 0 for 1 tonight, 1 for his last 29. Got some pop, 15 home runs on the season. 4 of them have come against the Yankees.
And he's an aggressive swinger, and this is where a veteran like Kuroda can take advantage in a key situation.
Challenged him with a fastball, and he got it by him.
One of his best fastballs of the night. He recognizes.
Can you recognize as a pitcher, this is the 5th inning, and
yep.
You still got 4 innings left, but is this a crucial part of the game?
This is a much like Tillman in the 2nd inning. I'm going to the well here with this hitter. This is everything I have for this at bat. He may see 4 in a row.
When someone has a good fastball and a good split, you're almost guessing that it's going to be a ball. Like you're okay. He's going to throw a split here. I have to not swing at this because I know it's not going to be a strike. Easier said than done, though.
Jeter to second in time to force him and end the inning. The Orioles leave a couple of men on, a couple of broken bat base hits, but Kuroda gets out of it. Jeter leads it off. Him in the batter's box for the third time tonight. 0 for 2 and a couple of fly balls to right. And to right field again. 0 for 3. The results the same each time tonight. And a guy whose swing, and we're going to show you some looks at his swing from right when he started and now this season, and they look identical.
Yeah, and that's why he's been so consistent for the 20 years he's played, and that's why it's going to stay consistent. You see the start, the hands high, the same follow through. Look at the head in the same position. Look at the lead elbow, the back elbow digging into the ribs, throwing the knob of the bat to the ball, and the follow through is exactly the same every single time. And here it is, this last pitch right here by Chris Tillman. Nothing's changed. Just, he's 40 years old, Dan. That's that'll.
Kurt, how did you try to, when you faced him, how'd you try to deal with it?
Well, it was funny because when I had my fastball, I had very, very good numbers against him. When I lost my fastball, I think he might have had one of the best seasons ever for a hitter against a pitcher with like more than 15 at bat. He crushed me. But I had to have the ability to get in on him because he had a Yankee Stadium swing. He hit the ball to right field, drive the ball to right field. So I would go in hard, mid to upper 90s when he was up. When I lost that, he absolutely owned me.
Well, lucky for you, we have those numbers.
Shocker.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Let me tell you how bad you were.
Elias, well, we're going to balance this out a little bit. In his career, he hit .294 against you, 20 for 68. You got him, he got you.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Right. In that 1 year, though, which would, you know what year that was?
2007.
Correct. He was 9 for 16 against you, which is the highest single season average against any pitcher that he ever faced 15 times or more in one season.
And here's the thing. I don't think he had a single in those 9 hits. I think he had like it was ridiculous. He was labeling the ball all year long.
But other than that year, you pretty much owned it.
Yeah, but well, that's the year I go away remembering, the one where he owned me. But there are worse things than being owned by a guy that's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
100%.
I loved competing against him. And different players, him and Chipper Jones were very different players, but they were the same guy to pitch to. They never gave away an at-bat.
You want to know the Chipper numbers, or should we just move on?
Yeah, I was all right against Chipper.
You were all right against Chipper.
Yeah.
Again, great. He got you. You got him. 20 for 66, 303. You got some big-time names up here.
Stayed around a little bit.
You hung around. You know who you faced the most? Who'd you face the most in your
Barry
career?
Bonds.
You are correct. And even 100 plate appearances.
And I think, 9 home runs?
8.
8.
This is just regular season, I believe. That I'm looking at. So 8 home runs.
That was the Not one of them less than 450 either.
Who's Crucky on this list?
I don't think I faced you. Did I face you?
I don't know.
No.
Maybe when he was with Houston, his rookie year, or his first year at Houston, or his only year in Houston, or how many years you were there?
I think a lot of people, they think of you, obviously, Kurt, as a member of the Red Sox. They think of you as a Diamondback. They think of you as a Philly. You broke in as a Baltimore Oriole.
In my career, being traded from here to Houston was the most devastating thing that happened to me. I was here in 89 and 90 when they were starting to become really good. Camden Yards was getting ready.
Yep.
I thought I was going to be a part of this incredible young club. Steve Finley, Mike Devereaux, Pete Harnish, Bob Malachy, and I get dealt. I get traded, and I was just devastated because my wife is from here. And I went to Houston, to the Astrodome, which was interesting.
That ain't a bad place to pitch.
Oh, no.
And Prado sneaks one through for a base hit.
Well, here's the issue you have, Dan, with a first baseman, a guy who's been an outfielder his whole career, and you put him at first base. When do I go for the ball? When do I not go for the ball? And this base hit by Martin Prado, you see Pearce. See, he plays well off the line. He starts to go for it, and then he stops because he thinks Jonathan Scope is going to be there to get to the ball. And I think even, I know Tillman's a pretty good athlete, but even if Scope catches that ball, Prado's probably still safe at first base. But that's the issue you have with the new guy. When do I go for it? When do I stay? And that's the thing you have to understand. Every pitch, you have to look at your second baseman. Is he moved over? Do I have enough room to go for it? Or should I go for it if he's, shading closer to second base? All things that he's going to learn in the next 16, 17 games, where they have left to get to the postseason.
When I pitched, I positioned every player on defense. And the one thing I always did was I told my first baseman, get everything you can get, because every ball over there I'm breaking. I'll be coming over. Go to everything you can get. That hole gets bigger when the first baseman doesn't go there. Oh, good pitch.
Perfect pitch.
Yeah, well, and the thing about it is, for me, at 94 pitches, I need every one of those. And a lot of umpires don't they think, not a lot, but you would say something to them and they'd say, all right, we throw the next pitch for a strike. Well, now you've put me from 1-2 to 2-1, which is the biggest switch in batting average in the count.
Missed away.
Now, see, now I'm in a situation where 2-2 to 3-1. And I'm facing the guy that's throwing the ball really well. I'm at 95 pitches, so this is probably my last inning. So I'm gonna empty it, everything I got here.
And he gets a pop-up on the left side. That's Hardy, who's over there all by himself. And because of the shift, makes the catch in foul territory to win the inning. Good pitchers duel continues here at Camden Yards in Baltimore.
High-speed offense against two-time Pro Bowl quarterback Andrew Luck and the Colts. Monday Night Football, 8:15 on ESPN.
Well done. Wow. Well done. Finish it up before first pitch. we've put him to work a little bit, Shill, while you've been away. So it's things have changed a little bit. Promos are now part of his responsibility.
They haven't put me to work. They've created less work for him. That's all that is.
Well, when I was going through.
There's Markakis lifting one to left field for Gardner. One down.
When I was going through treatment in the hospital Sunday night, you guys were an inspiration for me. I'll tell you that.
Well, we are glad you're back with us, and I know a lot of people are glad to see you back. And,
thanks.
And knowing you're feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked earlier today.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Well,
good.
I wonder if they're going to only pay for a half a day because only half of them showed up.
I just want to say one thing. I chewed tobacco for over 30 years. And anybody that does that sort of stuff understands, it's the first thing you think of in the morning. It's the last thing you think of at night. It's incredibly addictive. Never in my life, I heard people talk that had half a face, that lost their tongue, whatever. Nothing ever scared me enough to stop. The amount of pain involved in getting radiation in your throat was the first thing in my life that I wish I could have gone back and never done it once.
Well, it's a message, I think, through you. And also the passing of Tony Gwynn this year. I mean, we've had two huge reminders.
And I got incredibly lucky because I didn't have part of my face taken off,
right.
Which is what a lot of people that chew tobacco, that's the first thing that happens. Part of your jaw, part of your tongue, and it's a massive undertaking and it's unbelievably painful.
There's Alejandro Diaz. Diaz tonight is grounded out and struck out. Well, we're glad to have you back, Kurt. And, we've got a couple of games coming up this week. Friday in Kansas City, Sunday in St. Louis as well. We'll spend some time in the Midwest.
Looking forward to it.
And then one thing we're all looking forward to is being a part of the postseason. We will have the National League wild card game for you here on ESPN. Of course, ESPN Radio has every single game of the postseason. If there are any tiebreakers, we'll have those on the day after the regular season, and then the NL wild card game as well.
It's going to be fun. A lot of traveling, but still, there's playoff baseball.
Win or go home baseball
is
absolutely awesome.
Don't forget too. Friday after the game in Kansas City, we get the bond on the bus going to St. Louis. So.
That's one word for it.
Yep. Liner up the middle, a base hit. So a one-out single to bring Adam Jones to the plate. Truckee, for those who weren't with us off the top of the show, you said this guy's the best player on this team. Tell us why.
I think the best overall player, not because there's not many teams where your center fielder is your third hitter, your center fielder is one of your top run producers. And he has great speed and he plays a Gold Glove center field. And when you talk to Buck Showalter's coaching staff, they said it's like it's almost impossible to get him out of the lineup. He never wants to not play. And this is where he's going to try to jump Kuroda early. Diaz gets not the hard hit ball to center, but he gets a base hit with one out. And this is where a guy like Andrew Jones is going to try to prey on, hopefully he'll make a mistake early and I can try to jump on one.
Been about as productive as any outfielder in the American League the last 3 years. Mike Trout is ahead of him in a number of those categories.
If you listen to people talk, they talk about being strong up the middle. That's how you build a pennant-winning team. They start the season, Wieters behind the plate, Adam Jones at center, Hardy at short. They were feeling good. Now Adam's the last one standing, and he's had the year he had to have for them to be here.
The guy figures to be right in the prime of his career, 28 years of age, a four-time All-Star. 3 Gold Gloves. He's won a Silver Slugger. Let's go down to Buster Olney with more.
Hey, guys. You guys remember a couple of years ago, Adam Jones in the postseason went 2 for 26. And I asked him today what he learned from that and if the Orioles make the playoffs, what he'll take into this year. And he said he learned a lesson. He said, I really have to take what they give me. He talked about feeling the adrenaline of the moment and understanding how pitchers are going to work. And guys, he talked about how
There's no question he knows that going into the postseason, given the structure of the Orioles lineup, there could be situations where opposing teams are simply not going to pitch to him. And he said, I'm dangerous when I'm on base also, meaning that he'll got to take the walk.
What was the first playoff series of your career like for you in terms of emotion?
It was,
that kind of thing?
The first game, I think, is the one. I think the first couple innings of the first game. Then after that, you just keep telling yourself, this is something I've done since I was a kid. It's the same game. You're trying to convince yourself of that. You're lying to yourself.
Runner goes, and it's lined. A fair ball off the glove of Prado and down the line. Diaz around third. He will come in to score as Jones has tied the game for the Orioles.
Well, if you watch this pitch, I'm not so sure it wasn't the pitch he wanted to throw. He sets up in, he gets that ball in. That's a scouting mistake. That's not a pitch that you should be throwing that spot, because clearly it's something he likes to swing at.
And you see the ball is in fair territory when it hits the glove of Martin Prado, but you remember the pitch before where he kind of embarrassed Adam Jones with a poor swing on the same pitch. And great hitters, good hitters, smart hitters, you can't go back in there and think you're going to do that again. If he'd have thrown a slider away, he might have been able to go back down in there, but I think it was still a good enough pitch. You get jammed, but that's strength.
I always felt like if you're going to double up in, you have to be a mid-90s or better guy, or have a Brandon Webb type sinker.
Nelson Cruz up there hacking, and he got what looked like a slider up in the zone, but he fouled it back.
Yeah, that's a play at third. You're taught to try to catch everything. I'm not so sure that if Martin Prado doesn't touch that ball, it doesn't keep hooking foul.
Yeah, I think it was a foul ball. One thing to just add to Adam Jones, he struggled in the postseason his first time around because every pitcher in the postseason, for the most part, can execute a game plan.
God, maybe trying to rattle Kuroda a little bit right now as he checks on Jones out at second. A double to tie it here in the bottom of the sixth. Chopper toward third. Jones holds his ground as Cruz is retired, 2 down.
And you mentioned, Buster mentioned about Adam Jones maybe not pitching to him. You have to remember, if memory serves me correctly, in 2011, Nelson Cruz was going to be the MVP of the World Series if it wasn't for David Freese.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the Chris Davis thing might have an impact. I don't know. He's a sub-200 average guy with a 300 on-base percentage who has a lot of holes and can be pitched to. I'm not so sure that is as big of a loss as people think it is.
Davis not eligible to participate in the division series. He's suspended for 25 games the last 17 of the regular season, the first 8 of the playoffs if the Orioles get that far. So a decision the Orioles may have to make if they win the division series is, do they put him on the roster for the ALCS and miss him for a few games, play a man short for a few games, but bring him back midway through the ALCS, or do they keep him off the roster, play with 25, and then hope they can advance to the World Series?
Is he missing 8 postseason games?
He is missing 8 postseason games.
So that's a 7-game series.
If they play the division series, if they win it in 5, he misses 3. If they win it in 3, he misses 5. In the next round, in the ALCS.
So but I would imagine you don't put him on the roster, because you can switch your roster between series.
They wouldn't put him on the roster for the first round, but if they wanted him to play at any point in the ALCS, they would have to put him on the roster before that series and then play a man short until he's eligible.
For a minimum of 3
For a minimum of 3, maximum of 5.
Right.
So, a decision obviously they hope to have to make, because that means they're doing well and they've advanced around, but and
you don't know what he's going to be allowed to do yet.
A diving stop by Drew, but he won't have a play. It'll be an infield hit for Pearce. Jones to third. Let's go down to Buster.
Hey guys, what Chris Davis is going to do, and Buck Showalter talked to him earlier today, is he's going to go home to Texas. He's going to take some stuff back there, and then he's going to report to the Orioles Winter Instructional League team, and that's where he will work out until he's able to come back. So he can work out. It's not like he's going to be basically banned from being around the team. Now, it's interesting. You guys remember 2 years ago, Melky Cabrera, when he was suspended, the Giants players made no secret of the fact they didn't want him around again. Well, in this case, I think because this was not a steroid bust, it was a stimulant suspension, and because he's so well-liked, he will be embraced with open arms if they're still playing.
There's J.J. Hardy, 2-on, 2-out tie game. One of the interesting things about the amphetamine suspension, and Adderall by the baseball rules is considered a banned stimulant or an amphetamine. If you get suspended for 25 games, that means it was your second positive test. Your first one, in terms of amphetamines, gets a warning. So he tested positive, knew about it, knew he would be tested again, and then got caught for a second time, and that generated the suspension. Hardy's 2 for 2.
I'll tell you what the tough part about all of that is that I'm a human being, so I'm biased. There are guys that I played with that cheated, who I love them dearly as friends, and there are guys I played against I didn't like, who I will talk about as players that cheated, and it comes off as incredibly biased, but that's what happens when you play and live with these guys. Doesn't make their decision any smarter or better. They made bad decisions, all of them.
Truckee, as a hitter, if he's not facing game pitching over the next month, how good can he be in the middle of October?
Well, if they get to the ALCS, it looks like they're going to be playing the Angels, maybe Oakland, Seattle could be in this thing. There's some pretty good pitchers firing it up then, and usually in the postseason, a lot of guys, pitchers especially, are locked in. You're not going to get that in the instructional league. I can guarantee you that, because there is zero adrenaline in instructional league for Chris Davis to get some good swings in.
Yeah, I think the big thing is what you said. He's coming back in the middle of postseason, so he's not going to see a number 5 or a kid that just got called up. He's going to see, Felix Hernandez or John Lester. Yeah, Scherzer, Verlander,
David Price.
Could be trouble. And it's caught by Drew, ranging back into the outfield to save his pitcher a run and a hit. The Orioles get 1. We're at the end of 6, and it's all tied up at 1. Non-stop action, heart-pounding excitement, historic performances. Don't miss the 2014 postseason beginning September 30th. And follow every Major League Baseball game with MLB.com at bat for your mobile device. Get scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit MLB.com for details.
Glad you did that one.
I never even considered giving that.
Yeah, well,
that's a difficult maneuver.
You're the smartest one here, that's for sure.
Here's Mark Teixeira, 1 for 2 tonight. Curveball misses just outside.
Maybe.
In the air, right center, deep, but playable for Jones. Now, one of the moves the Orioles made is picking up Andrew Miller from the Boston Red Sox, and this is one nasty left-hander. And he has been pretty much lights out for the Orioles, making a deep bullpen truck even deeper.
Yeah, a lot deeper, and it gives Buck Showalter a lot more flexibility. And Andrew Miller's always a guy that struggled with command, and it looks like he's starting to figure it out. But he's a 6'7" sidewinder, mid to high 90s fastball, and a nasty slider. When it's located, when he's locating pitches, it's pretty much done for the day.
I heard a comment today from Buck that I thought was pretty smart. He might be the best closer on the market this winter.
Yeah, that was a great comment for a guy who hasn't really been a closer.
Right.
Yeah.
He's all kinds of nasty. I'll tell you what, though, the thing people don't understand is that the trade with Boston might have been the best prospect that changed hands during the trading deadline. Eduardo Rodriguez, minor league pitcher who everybody talks about being an electric top of the rotation arm guy. Eduardo Rodriguez, I think.
But they sure strengthened their bullpen, which was already strong. Got 3 lefties now: Brian Mattis, Miller, and their closer, Zach Britton.
Yeah, they got some guys down there, and Kurt will tell you in the postseason, late in the game, you got to strike people out.
Yeah.
And they got it with Andrew Miller, and Tommy Hunter can strike guys out. And Zach Britton, of course, with that nasty sinker that he throws.
Well, Darren O'Day's not your flamethrower by any stretch of the imagination, but all he does is get people out.
Right. I thought the comment from Buck was very interesting, and he said, "Listen, we got a guy that's getting outs for us in the big leagues to win the World Series, and I'll trade anybody if that guy is going to be that good in the big leagues."
Ball 4 to Chris Young. Over 100 pitches now for Tillman. Miller up in the pen, maybe getting ready for Ellsbury, a couple of batters away.
This right here, this is school. This is school for a young pitcher. You're at 105 pitches. You're in the 7th inning. You're facing the guy for the 3rd time. It's not about stuff now. It's about executing the game plan because you might be a little fatigued keeping the ball down.
Drew bunted for a base hit last time up. Field plays him straight up this time around as he takes ball 1.
Yeah, with the double play in order, third base stays at his normal position, Kelly Johnson, and that's going to take the bunt away from Stephen Drew. When you're hitting 130, taking a bunt away might be not a good thing for Stephen Drew right now. This could be a lesson, though, to players who are free agents, and from everything we've understand, they've been made pretty good offers. You sit out a half a year. I don't care who you are. That's a difficult thing to try to come back and get baseball ready while you're playing in the big leagues.
I think the thing you lose when you do that, you don't realize until you come back, is how fast the game is. There's nowhere to replicate that. back to Chris Davis and instructional. There's nowhere to replicate what happens on a big league field speed-wise.
I think we've seen from Drew and Kendrys Morales. They're the two guys who both didn't sign and came back partway through the year. Both of them have had their struggles. Nelson Cruz took less than he might have gotten otherwise. Definitely took less, or less than a qualifying offer. And look at how his season's gone.
I think that also says when you do that, when you do what he did, he's saying, I got confidence in myself to go play this year and do it again. And he's done it.
And as boring and tedious for a player as spring training can be, it also is a necessity. I don't think you need, an extra half month like I think they've added on, but they can take a half month off to what it was before and make it, 3 weeks maybe. But
a wild pitch thrown by Tillman into second. It goes Young. What'd you see there, Kurt?
He's tired. When you get tired, things start to happen. That's why to me, he has to be in these situations. He's gotten past the 6th inning, 15, counting tonight, 15 of 31 starts. You'd like it to be 25, 26, 27, but these are the things you can only learn these when you're in the game. Throwing a curveball, it's late in the game, he throws that ball straight into the ground. That ball bounces, and that's it's fatigue. Fatigue is starting to set in.
Like cricket. Tried to bounce that and hit the peg. That ball bounced in the ground. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
I'll tell you what, though. The thing about it is you watch the next pitch. He didn't think enough. He gathered himself. He did what he had to do, and he executed on the next pitch. Those are the things I love to watch with young pitchers. After they give up a home run or something weird happens, what do they do on the next pitch?
Ground ball to the right side. Tillman over to cover, takes the feed. 2 down as Young comes to third. And Buck Showalter has already made the call to the pen. 112 pitches, 6 2/3. 19th start in a row where Tillman will give up 3 or fewer earned runs. He gets a big ovation as he comes off and he turns it over to the bullpen here in a tie game. Baltimore, a 1-1 tie between the Yankees and Orioles. Top of the 7th, 2 outs, runner at third, and we have a couple of changes in this game. Andrew Miller is into the game for Baltimore. The big lefty who came over in the deal with the Boston. And he was very good with the Red Sox. He's been perhaps even better, terrific with the Orioles. You see his combined numbers 94 strikeouts and 16 walks on the season. And look who it is for the Yankees. The guy who a few days ago they said they might shut down or might have to be shut down for the season, Carlos Beltran, playing with a bad elbow that might require off-season surgery. But here he comes up trying to drive in the go-ahead run.
And sit there for 7 innings and watch it, and Andrew Miller comes in and drops a hook on the first pitch.
And you're looking for 98.
Yeah. Well, here it comes, maybe.
On the outside edge, 0-2.
That ball had some hair on it.
There's Tillman looking on from the Oriole dugout. A good night's work for him, hoping Miller can preserve the tie here in the 7th.
Oh, wow.
Did you see the flinch from Ed Hickox?
He missed it. Gosh. That's it. You can't miss pitches like that this late in the game. Oh, perfect pitch.
You know, hitters get fooled. You got to believe umpires do. They have to.
You talk to the good ones, they'll admit it. So sometimes they do. Stuff is so good.
Got him. Nasty stuff from Miller to end the inning and strand a runner at third. 7th inning stretch here at Camden Yards. Miller with a strikeout of Beltran. Tillman looking on, likes what he sees from the Baltimore dugout.
Forget about the standings. You can only do one thing tonight. Win. Baseball's pennant race on ESPN.
The hunt for October is on, and the Baltimore Orioles are on the verge of assuring themselves of a spot, a magic number of 4. They are tied at 1 with the Yankees here tonight, going to the bottom of the 7th. Martin Prado with a home run in the 2nd for the Yankees. And then the Orioles got the run back on an Adam Jones RBI double in the bottom of the 6th. Good night's work for both Hiroki Kuroda and Chris Tillman. New right fielder for the Yankees is Ichiro, coming on here in the bottom of the 7th. The Yankees 76-71, 4.5 back of the second wild card. The Orioles 88-60, 11 games up in the American League East with a magic number of 4. It would be their first division championship since 1997.
And this town, these fans, they deserve that. This is one of the, to me, this is the American League version of St. Louis. Orioles fans love their team.
Almost 44,000 here tonight. Kelly Johnson takes a strike.
I'll tell you what, though, the Yankees, I don't think they're going to make the postseason this year. But I always feel like the postseason is, with them in it, without them in it, is not the postseason. I always feel like that's the team you need to go through to really win a world championship.
Well, this would be 2 years in a row missing the postseason, and that would be the first time that's happened to the Yankees since 1992 and 1993. That's pre-wild card.
I still think Joe Girardi's done a phenomenal job the last 2 years. The cards he's been dealt.
1-2 on Johnson.
Yeah, and this year, so much more difficult than last. When you lose 4/5 of your rotation pretty early in the season, you can find position players here and there on whatever, minor leagues, waivers, whatever, to fill in, and hopefully they get hot and do something. But you don't have pitching, you're done.
Gardner makes the catch. Johnson retired, 1 down. Now, had they hit like they expected they would hit, maybe things would be a little bit different. You can see the offense last year was subpar, bottom half of the league in most important offensive categories. So with the offseason, the Yankees went out and spent a lot of money, like a lot of money, to bring in Ellsbury, McCann, and Beltran. Ellsbury's had a good year.
Wow.
McCann and Beltran haven't produced like they have in the past, and the Yankees offense, as you can see, virtually identical in most categories. Runs per game, the most important one. Actually, a worse offensive team this year than they were last year.
$243 million there, and you get, and no one saw that coming. No one expected that. And I think it's a byproduct of age in a lot of cases. And health, obviously. But you know what? When you look at, there's some bright spots. One of the things, unfortunately, that this gets you the opportunity to do is to look at players you might not have normally looked at and get a feel for. Michael Pineda, I love the trade when it happened. I hope he stays healthy because I think he's got a chance to be a special guy. Tanaka, I think he's due for Tommy John surgery at some point in the next 6 months.
Do you think it's inevitable?
Absolutely. I just have never I've never seen a guy with a big tear sit, come back, and be okay. It just doesn't work out that way. If he has a big tear, he's going to have Tommy John. I just didn't understand why they didn't do it immediately.
Well, he's going to throw a simulated game or a schedule to tomorrow. About 60 or 62 pitches is what Joe Girardi said to us. If it goes well, he could rejoin the Yankees 5 days later. If he feels pain, that could be the signal that he needs surgery.
And I want to make no mistake. I want him to be healthy because a lot of people. It was funny to listen to baseball people before he came over. They talked about him being a 3 or a 4, and I mean, this guy's a legit ace, a legit number 1, and he pitched exactly like that over here. He was unbelievably impressive. But when you have a tear in the ulnar collateral ligament, you have Tommy John surgery at some point. And I just wish they had done it sooner so he could come back. I want him to see him back next year.
Two and two, the count on Nick Hundley. Got him. Well, Kuroda throws a lot of splitters and with a lot of success, so does Masahiro Tanaka.
Yeah, and you hear some people talking about they think that torque. I couldn't disagree more. I think it's the easiest pitch in the game to teach, and I think it's one of the easiest pitches in the game on your arm. if you're an over-the-top guy. It's the only way you can really throw it is over the top to get the down break. But I don't understand how the word torque got introduced into there. And having thrown it my whole career, I don't think it's as stressful on your arm as people think it is.
And of course, until he got hurt, he was terrific. 12-4 at 2.51 ERA. Year one of a big 7-year contract. The Yankees have a ton of money allocated towards 7 or 8 key players. In some cases, whose health or age, may be a big issue going forward. Nice catch there by Prado to retire Scope. Orioles go in order. End of 7. Tied at 1. Back at Camden Yards, doing a big business as always out at Boog's Barbecue. Non-stop action, heart-pounding excitement, historic performances. Don't miss the 2014 postseason beginning September 30th. Follow every Major League Baseball game with MLB.com at bat for your mobile device. Get scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit MLB.com for details. Boog's Barbecue out beyond the right center field fence out in front of the warehouse. This is seen by many guys as the ballpark that kind of changed ballparks. And everybody saw this one and said, boy, I want one of those.
Yeah.
And now we have Pittsburgh and San Diego and so many other beautiful ones.
And a lot of those newer ballparks after this one was built came here. Talk to the Orioles, talk to the architects and the builders and put their own little touch on basically what is a replica of Camden Yards, which, of course, changes, subtle changes.
Well, it's an incredible stadium for an incredible fan base. This is, I made my debut here. I get called up the year they went 0-21 to start the season. I get called up in September, and they're in last place by 50 games. There's 35,000 people in the park. And they love the team, and they're smart fans. They know when to cheer when you get a guy over, and they're incredibly loyal and passionate about the baseball.
Andrew Miller facing Jacoby Ellsbury,
and the atmosphere outside is unbelievable.
Yep.
So much stuff to do. It reminds you of the ballpark in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Just the atmosphere outside is just so much stuff for fans to do prior to the gates opening up. I believe old Mr. Slider's showing up here. 2-2. Ellsbury hadn't had the foul ball he hit on a one-strike pitch was he didn't see it well.
Got one, but he fouled it off.
No, he threw that one. I thought the 2 pitches before that he kind of trying to guide him in there. 91-92.
Red, white, and blue on display here. The 200th anniversary of the Star-Spangled Banner being commemorated here in Baltimore. Sharply hit, knocked down, picked up on the first in time. Scope staying with it.
You mentioned the Orioles. You talk about how great their pitching's been, their bullpen, their power, but you don't mention how good their defense is. And Jonathan Scope right here. I watch it. See how calm and collected he was. And a lot of guys with Ellsbury's speed would rush, panic, try to reach down, grab it with your bare head, might miss it once, and then fire something to first base off the line. But there's no rush for Jonathan Scope, and we've told about the shortstop arm.
Fans recognizing this could be Derek Jeter's last at the bat here in Baltimore. Jeter 0 for 3 tonight. 0 for his last 23. That's the second longest hitless streak in his career. And an 0 for 32 back in April of 2004. Two and one.
That one's coming true.
Oh, slider for a strike, 2-2. Not surprisingly, given his longevity and successful career, that he's got more hits than anybody else in this ballpark. Miller gets him.
Well, this is what happens when you get a little bit older. You have a guy who can get the fastball up there in the mid to high 90s like Andrew Miller can. Is you have to start it early. When the bat speed leaves, you got to start early. Here's the first fastball, 93. Another one, 93, and he's up and out of the zone. At 94, he fouls it off. That's a 2-0 pitch. He's fouled up. Then Andrew Miller said, all right, I'm going slider right here because he's trying to speed up to catch up to my fastball. He just fouled one off, 2-0 to the right side. He's not getting out in front of it. I throw him a slider right now. He's going to be so far out front of it, which he was those last 2 pitches, and he didn't have a chance.
When a pitcher throws that hard, you can't sit on multiple pitches. You have to pick one. And when you can throw that hard and you command the ball, that makes it kind of unfair.
So Miller has struck out 2 of the 3 batters he's faced, got the other one on a ground out, and now faces Gardner, who's 0 for 3. The Orioles have dominated the season series against the Yankees this year. They've won 10 of the 14 games. There's still more Yankee-Oriole baseball to come in the last week of the regular season. A 4-game series Monday through Thursday at Yankee Stadium. The Thursday game, the last home game of Derek Jeter's career. Oh, little inside.
Nah. good pitch. Again, same thing. When, goes from 2-2 to 3-1. Oh my.
Well, that's.
But that's the inning.
Yeah.
The inning's over. I'm walking off right now.
But that's a Brett Gardner.
Yeah.
It's 3-1. I'm cheating fastball in. I'm gonna try to hit it off the warehouse to give us a lead. And Andrew Miller and Nick Hundley, of course, being prepared, and they dropped the slider on him. Gardner missed it. That ball was still in the grass when Gardner swung.
Oh, wow.
Another nasty slider. This one taken for strike 3 called. And a dominant inning for Andrew Miller. Wasn't happy with the lack of a strike call earlier in the at-bat, but he still got his man and got the Yankees to get him in order and keep the game tied at 1. Baseball is presented by the new Dollar Cravings menu at Taco Bell. Live Mas. And in part by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. A big few days here in Baltimore. The 200th anniversary of the Star Spangled Banner. Today, September 14th, 200 years ago, commemorated with the tall ships, fireworks displays, the Blue Angels, and a ton of people coming here from all around the country. Bottom 8 tied at 1. Just saw all kinds of nasty in Andrew Miller. Now you'll see the Yankees all kinds of nasty. Dellin Betances, who has put up cartoonish-like numbers this year with a 1.37 ERA, a 1.44 opponent's batting average, and 128 strikeouts in 85 2/3 innings. And from the right side, Schill, it's similar. An overpowering fastball and a nasty slider.
This is the only number that kind of worries me a little bit is the innings. That's a lot of innings to put on a kid out of the pen.
Nick Markakis is the batter, and a kid out of the pen who, depending on how things go in the offseason for the Yankees, he could be their closer.
I think everything that I have heard, and I think we've heard, is leaning towards Robertson being gone.
He's a free agent.
Right.
Yeah.
And this kid taking over, and just the sad part is this. This is almost like a Wetland Rivera type of a bullpen right now. Although I'm not going to call one of these guys Mariano Rivera, but.
He clearly has the stuff to be a closer.
Yeah, and I think, based on looking at him the way he pitches, his tempo, I think he probably has the mentality to get those last 3 outs.
Robertson's got 36 saves, and he's striking out over 13 batters per 9 innings too. Will the Yankees make him a qualifying offer? That hit the fence in front of the dugout?
Yeah, that's.
Thank goodness for the fence.
Well, they didn't used to have fences in front of them, and now all of a sudden, I think.
Right on that ball.
Common sense took over. Yeah, that's. I'm looking for a slider.
98.
Slider,
wow.
1 down.
This is a hard. It's got curveball spin, but velocity wise, I think it's a slider. I mean, that's something that's hard to do. Look at that.
A strikeout away from tying Mariano Rivera's franchise record for most strikeouts in a season by a reliever. Back when Rivera, before he was the closer, when he was the 7th, 8th inning guy and working 2 innings at a time. Sometimes.
Well, he's thrown 130 innings in the minor league, so he's been over that number before. The thing about it with a young pitcher is there's no low leverage innings. As a young pitcher, every inning, regardless of the score, is high leverage.
Off the foot of Wayne Kirby. He's all right. And now he and Adam Jones are engaged again. This is a nonstop comedy routine between these two.
I thought Adam Jones was going to fall down when that ball first hit Wayne Kirby. It was comical.
In the air to left. 2 down. An activity now in the Orioles pen. Right-hander Darren O'Day, submariner, and then the closer, the lefty Zach Britton, depending on whether or not the Orioles score this inning.
When you look at the arms that are up right now, it leads me to believe we might be seeing a 10th inning.
This is about the time of the broadcast where Crucky says, "Stay in school, kids," when pitchers come in throwing like this.
98 with a nasty slider. Get your education.
Adam Jones, who's driven in the only Orioles run tonight with an RBI double back in the 6th. It was a slider that slipped out of his hand and narrowly missed, hitting Jones in the hip. This has been a mismatch in 4 career at-bats.
I guarantee you that's not the only one.
No, I can't be.
Well, and if you look at the Yankees, mid-90s they had that player development machine. Amazing, everybody, they turned to Pettit and Rivera and Jeter and Posada. They went on that run. They've always had for me, these guys like this show up and you're like, who is this? And the numbers in September like that, and they do go out and spend and they buy. I get it. But for me, they've developed a lot of good talent, and that's the thing they're missing right now, I think.
And that pitch right there is the thing that makes it unfair. 2-0, he throws 2 breaking balls that almost hit Adam Jones. And then 2-0 pitch, he throws another one for a strike.
Will Jones get a fastball? He did right there. 97, swings through it, 2-2.
It's the hardest thing to teach a young pitcher, that giving that variety and velocity, whether it's 88 and 70 or 98 and 80, is everything. You throw both of those for strikes. Hitter can't. There's nothing you can do about it.
Guess and hope you guess right. and that's what happens. That wasn't a good slider.
Yep.
But when you're throwing 97, 98, and with that slider, you got to protect. And so what happens is on that pitch, Dan, is you see 97, and then it's a slider. You try to wait and wait and wait, and by then you're too late. And that's what happened right there with Adam Jones. He got jammed and fouled it back.
Did you change your approach against if you're facing Jamie Moore as a starter? You might look to drive a ball. You face a guy like this late in the game. Did you just?
I was trying to put it in play and hope he supplied the power if I did catch it, but
yeah,
that normally happened, to be honest with you.
So Jones now 0 for 5 strikeouts in his career against Betances. We are at the end of 8. It is tied at 1, leading it off for the Yankees in the 9th. The batter who has supplied the Yankees' only run of the night, Martin Prado, with a home run back in the 2nd. He'll lead it off for New York in a 1-1 tie. Presented by Taco Bell. Top 9 at Camden Yards in front of a crowd of better than 43,000. The Yankees and the Orioles are tied at 1. Baltimore with a magic number of 4 to win the American League East. New pitcher for the Orioles, Submariner, a right-hander, Darren O'Day, who has a 1.30 ERA on the season in 62 appearances. He's allowed less than a base runner per inning, and has been almost as tough on lefties as he has been on righties. He will face a righty in Prado to begin the inning, holding righties to a 163 average this year, and holding lefties to a 193 average this year. A guy who doesn't crack 90, but the arm angle and the movement on the pitches obviously both make it very difficult on hitters.
It makes him an anomaly. You rarely see guys that throw this like this that can dominate left-handed hitters.
Sweeping slider, 1-1.
Well, normally late inning games you play your defense, corner infielders, so there's no doubles down the line, and you'll give them a single, but you don't want them to hit a double. But ever since I've known Buck Showalter, he's never believed in that theory. He said how many balls are hit in the hole more often than they are down the line. So we're going to play normal.
this is also one of the reasons why their defense is so good. All the guys they bring out, put on the mound, throw strikes. They work quick, they throw strikes, and you talk to anybody defensively, they love to play behind guys that work fast, and then you put the ball in play.
I watched Doug Fister 2 starts ago for him, and I think he was throwing the ball before he got it back to the pitcher. I mean, it was rapid, and it was great to watch.
Look at that, 87, and Prado's got a.
Well, that's a swing like you saw some guys at Betances. That's what happens when you can vary speeds that much. Now look at the arm angle first. That's incredibly, I would imagine, tough. But that's a corner it's hard for those guys to master. And he clearly, the numbers against lefties would tell you he's gotten it. Now, he has to swing like that because the ball naturally from that arm angle is always running towards a right-hander. That ball's going the other way. It's almost a Maddox thing where he throws balls that break both ways to both corners.
Does the arm angle make it more difficult as a hitter, Craig?
I never liked hitting off side armors. I had a few at-bats against Kent DeColby, and because you're not used to looking down there. You know, you might see it 2 or 3 at-bats a year as a left-handed hitter, one or two at-bats a year against a guy like that.
Now it seems like every other team has one of these.
Yeah, but the weird thing about it, Dan, is like the break that you're thinking that his fastball has to sink because of how he's throwing it, and his slider would have to be a more flat slider, but it rises because he's actually underneath the ball when he's throwing his slider, and it gets that little upward, up and in motion to a lefty, and it's hard to track.
High in the air to right field. Markakis turns and watches it go. Home run, Brian McCann, and the Yankees have the lead. His second home run in as many days and his 20th home run on the season.
Side arm or overhand, not really met. You can't throw that ball in that middle plate like that. And that's why lefties hit guys like this. If you don't, everything runs away from them fastball-wise. Runs to the barrel. Got to keep the ball out of the middle right there. Impressive swing.
Yeah, when I saw Markakis going after that ball, I thought, it's, he's going to catch that in front of the warning track.
It was drifting, I think.
Nice short hop down there by Pearce for the second out.
Well, Kurt said it. That's a pitch by O'Day that he's trying to get away from McCann, and it starts in and breaks into play. You see McCann, there was no give in the swing when the pitch was actually left his hand. Looked like it started at him and sunk. It was sinking back over the center of the plate, but not down enough. And Brian McCann was brought to New York, hopefully to take advantage of the right field seats in New York, and he's been struggling for a good part of the year offensively, and took advantage of that mistake by O'Day.
I got a question. I've always heard that left-handers see guys like that much better. You can see the ball better when righties do that. Is that true?
Well, I think it was always difficult for me for some reason because I couldn't look that low. Apparently, I don't know what's wrong with it, but to me, that's the only thing you can hit because you know the ball's going to sink. And you know the slider's going to be up, but they're not going to throw that many to you because it is elevated. So your natural instinct as a left-hand hitter is to try to dive. And when that pitch stays over the middle of the plate, that's like middle in, against lefty-lefty. It's more middle in. And McCann stayed on it, though, and that's the thing. He didn't pull off and hit that rollover grounder.
You remember Byung-Hyun Kim? Yeah, his slider went up.
David Robertson, the Yankee closer, up in the pen. Yankees lead 2-1, top 9 after the home run from Brian McCann. 2-2 on Young.
You know what's scary, Dan, is you'll see guys that throw like this. They'll throw a pitch to a left-hander. He'll swing at it and the ball hit him.
Call it the chaser.
Looks a lot harder in 88.
That would look like about 95, yeah. But it looked like he tried to force that ball on the outside part of the plate, and it didn't look like he was as low as he normally is.
Takes outside, ball 4. Looking ahead to the bottom of the 9th, Robertson figures to face Cruz, Pearce, and Hardy. Cruz, the major league leader in home runs, 0 for 4, a couple of strikeouts against Robertson. Pearce hasn't faced him. Hardy's had a little bit of success, including a homer.
And right behind him is probably the best bullpen coach in the big leagues, Gary Tuck.
Here's Stephen Drew.
Oh, good pitch. Oof.
And a strike, 1-1. Prado homered in the 2nd to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead. Adam Jones with an RBI double in the 6th to tie it, and Brian McCann with a home run here in the 9th. The Yankees lead again. Pop up on the infield ends the inning. But the Yankees take a lead to the bottom of the 9th. Darren O'Day surrenders a home run to Brian McCann, the Yankee catcher's 20th home run of the season. And now New York will turn it over to its closer. David Robertson is on his way into the game. Leadoff hitter for the Orioles, the major league leader in home runs, Nelson Cruz. The Yankees take a 2-1 lead to the bottom of the ninth here in Baltimore. Trying to split this 4-game series. Nelson Cruz, 39 home runs on the season to lead the majors, is going to lead off the inning for the Orioles, where one swing of the bat could tie the game. Cruz, Pearce, and Hardy, 4, 5, and 6 against David Robertson. Robertson with 36 saves and 39 opportunities on the season. 86 strikeouts in 58 innings. They're chanting Cruz's name here at Camden Yards.
Oh. Got away with that one.
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
Little cutter right here. That's where you don't want to throw the ball. Oh, my.
Non-cutting cutter.
That one goes off the clock.
Cruz can't hit that high one.
I always thought and felt that good pitchers like this, you get one pitch. You get one pitch to hit, and if you miss it, that's the at-bat.
The only thing is they're trying. It looked like,
yeah.
What they're trying to do with McCann is go down and away, and he's missing in.
Yeah, he's overthrowing the ball. So, he's set.
Curveball in the dirt, ball 2. Curveball. This is inside, 3-1.
Well, now what? You got the leading home run in major leagues, tie game, 3-1 count.
I'm not sure I really care if he's on first. They're going to pinch run for him.
Line to left field, a base hit. Cruz the turn, digging for second, and in there.
Yeah, you watch this entire at bat. It seems like McCann was sitting middle out every single pitch, and he threw every pitch on the ball on the plate, inner half to in. Watch where McCann's sitting. He's sitting middle for he did that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, he missed location, and when you're the #1 home run hitter in Major League Baseball this year, you keep missing, you're going to eventually end up paying. I mean, that pitch was in. It was a great piece of hit by Nelson Cruz, but if he was looking in there, you're lucky his game isn't tied up.
Quentin Berry, the pinch runner, out at second.
I guarantee you, Buck told him in probably the 7th inning. 9th inning, someone gets on, you're in. And this is where Steve Pearce has to execute. You have to get Quentin Berry over to third base, whether it be by the bunt, hitting the ball the other way. You've got to get him to third base.
See, the thing about it is, if I'm McCann, I would have had to say something. Run out and say, hey, listen, keep the front shoulders, slow down, something.
And here's what your fear is if he's afraid to go into Pearce. Will he bounce something, trying to force it down and away?
Pearce with a lot of power. 17 home runs, 24 doubles on the season. Just over 300 at bats. 1-1 the count.
He's missing his spot. Two things I noticed. Number one, he's throwing the ball 3 or 4 miles an hour slower than he normally does. He's missing literally every spot.
Oh, back to the breaking ball.
That's a hard thing as a hitter when you know a guy throws cutter. That's his bread and butter pitch is that cutter, and he throws that breaking ball. You're so far out in front of it, like Pearce was there. And what also that does for David Robertson is you throw that breaking ball and you're out in front looking for a hard cutter. You ground out to the left side and the runner doesn't advance.
Third day in a row, Robertson has pitched. He pitched in game 1 of the doubleheader on Friday through 35 pitches. Then he pitched yesterday, got the save, throwing 11 pitches.
It feels very much like we're not going to re-sign you this winter, so I'm going to get as much as I can out of you the last 2 weeks.
But that can also speak to the velocity being down.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Yep. He's a guy I fell in love with this guy last year, watching him, that arm. Oh, you can't teach it. He's got nice makeup. Feels like he understands a lot. Those last 6 outs are different.
Hit all the way down into the corner. Barry will score to tie it, and Pearce is at second base.
About mislocation by David Robertson. There's another one, and again, lucky this game is not over. If Pearce didn't have 2 strikes on him, that could have been a little bit more of an aggressive swing with that breaking ball up in the strike zone. Instead, with 2 strikes, he doesn't have to concern himself with hitting the ball the other way. You just want to put it in place somewhere hard, and he does down the line for a double. Now he got back-to-back doubles to start off the 9th.
Now you got Hardy. Bunt?
I don't think he will. No? I don't think Buck bunts here. I think just like he played for the tie at home, he wasn't playing for the tie there, clearly. I think he got 3 shots to get him in here.
I think he would trust Hardy enough to know that he can hit the ball the other way and get him over.
He does square, gets it down up the third baseline. It goes foul.
One of the things you love about guys that play for Buck Showalter is usually if they stay around and he likes them, they have a high baseball IQ. They understand, don't have to give them the bunt. They'll do it themselves, or they'll do something to get that runner to third base.
And it was a good bunt, but you look at this, you look at the third base, the baselines here at Camden Yards. Look how close the grass is to the line. A lot of places have about a foot and a half. This is right on top of the line, and that's why that ball just kind of shifted and went foul, and I thought it was a perfect bunt when it first hit the ground.
Well, the grounds crew here has built this field, this infield, to not get the bunt down. They don't have an offense that plays that way. So if that's not a tool, then you turn the infield into an infield that doesn't do bunts well along the baselines.
Didn't show that time. They were still in on the corners for the Yankees.
Well, let's see. You saw the motion, too. Jeter was breaking toward third, and Stephen Drew was breaking toward first. And if Hardy hits a grounder past Robertson, this game's over.
Fly ball to right. Ichiro backpedaling. Pearce will tag, take a couple of steps, and then head back to second base. Hardy cannot advance the runner. Now Kelly Johnson.
Ichiro's always had a strong throwing arm, and that's not one if you're Steve Pearce you want to risk. Still got 2 chances of driving him in from second.
Johnson 0 for 3 tonight. Jeter trying to keep the runner Pearce close out at second. He's the winning run. And a drive up the alley in right center field, and this is going to win it for the Orioles. Johnson reduces the Orioles' magic number to win the division to 3. Derek Jeter bids farewell to Camden Yards. Down to Buster.
Kelly, what a moment for you. Walk me through what you were thinking in that at bat.
I flew out a couple times the last few games that I've played. Honestly, just thinking about trying to keep the barrel up on top of the ball. Got the right pitch for that there, so pumped up.
What's this like for you, bouncing around from team to team in the division to wind up here?
I can't explain it, but I ended up in a good spot. I ended up in the right spot. I was happy to be in first place playing with these guys, so that's all that matters right now.
What does this mean, taking 3 and 4 from the Yankees?
Well, it's huge. I mean, just another step towards our goal. Every game's a division game. Every game's gonna, get us closer to getting this thing wrapped up. We gotta keep going.
Kelly, you were telling me yesterday you really looked at the Orioles as a team of great potential.
Yeah, they've got the talent. They've got guys everywhere. I mean, that's why you can lose some key guys and still keep going. They got so many. So the pitching's been outstanding. Bullpen's been ridiculous. Like I said, I mean, it's got a lot of strengths.
Kelly, thanks. Dan, back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. A run for the Yankees guys in the top of the ninth, and then the Orioles, who have been so good in one-run games, close games the last few years, come back and win at the bottom.
It was the same thing for David Robertson. He couldn't get the ball down in the strike zone. Another elevated pitch. And you heard Kelly Johnson say, all I was trying to do is keep my barrel above the ball. Well, when the ball's elevated like that pretty much means you're center cutting if you're trying to stay above it. That had to be Adam Jones, I would imagine. Getting a pie in the face, but a mislocation, and when you...
That looked like a guy throwing his third day in a row. He's tired. And that was an inning full of missed pitches.
Cruz doubled. Pearce doubled. Johnson knocks Pearce in, and the Orioles win 3-2, take 3 out of 4, and reduce their magic number to win the division to 3. Good ball game tonight here in Baltimore as the Orioles defeat the Yankees 3-2, scoring 2 in the bottom of the ninth to win it. ESPN's Hunt for October coverage continues Tuesday at 8 Eastern with the Brewers taking on the Cardinals. Coming up next here tonight is Sports Center. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For John Kruk, Kurt Schilling, Buster Olney, and our entire Sunday night crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying so long from Camden Yards.